What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another amazing Naruto story. What if Naruto unlocked an ancient power after Mizuki's betrayal? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. Unforgivable. This was Naruto Uzumaki's reaction to what he was currently witnessing. The sight of Iruka-sensei bleeding out profusely on the ground as he protected Naruto from Mizuki's ambush. The bastard's revelation that Naruto was a Jinchuriki, a vessel for the Kyuubi, was not a huge surprise. Naruto was far more proficient at chakra manipulation than he let on. The fact that nearly the entire civilian population of Konoha, as well as several Konoha shinobi, despised him had given Naruto plenty of incentive to conceal the true extent of his talents. He did not want to give the villagers even more reason to hate him. In particular, he was incredibly gifted with yang release, a chakra nature composed entirely of physical energy that altered or manipulated the target's body. In other words, it directly tapped into the user's life force. Consequently, Naruto learned long ago that he had a passenger residing in his soul. He had made attempts to communicate with his soul tenant, but the chakra entity was asleep every time he tried. He wasn't sure if the tailed beast was just incredibly lazy or if the seal keeping it locked within Naruto also suppressed its consciousness. But who cares about that now? Iruka-sensei was badly hurt, possibly dying. Unforgivable, completely unforgivable. Naruto called forth his massive chakra reserves and formed the hand seal for the jutsu he learned earlier that day from the scroll Mizuki tricked him into stealing. Toju Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Multi-shadow clone technique. As Naruto channeled yang-released chakra through his body to make the 1,000 clones he deemed necessary to ensure Mizuki would not survive this encounter, something deep within him awakened. It wasn't the fox. Naruto knew what its chakra felt like, and this wasn't it. This didn't even feel like chakra at all but something else entirely, something Naruto knew was his power. He had planned to dive into combat immediately after forming his clones, but the appearance of his Kage Bushin shocked him. Gone were his azure eyes and blonde hair that didn't even reach his shoulders. In their place were golden eyes thick with killing intent and mid-back length hair seemingly spun from silver silk using a goddess loom. Two purple stripes on each cheek resembled tiger stripes, and his hands ended in clawed fingers. His ears were elongated, ending in tapered points like the elves he had read about in a fantasy novel given to him by the Hokage. Naruto also noticed that his body's musculature was immensely improved. Before this new essence manifested, Naruto's body looked like a normal 12-year-old's, not scrawny by any means but certainly not at the height of physical fitness. He sent a pulse of yang chakra through his body to ascertain his new limits, and he was shocked by its response. Every muscle fiber in his body was remade, all superfluous fat tissue was gone. His heart felt so energy efficient that calling it a machine seemed an injustice. Machines wear out, break down, but his heartbeat felt eternal. His neurons felt like they were receiving and transmitting data at the speed of light. His bones felt like an engineer's dream material, the ultimate combination of density and low weight. Whatever Naruto was now, he knew he would never be human again, and it felt damn good. Iruka Amino was stunned. Naruto, the dead last academy dropout, performing the Kage Bushin no Jutsu to perfection 1,000 times over was shocking enough, but the drastic changes to his appearance defied belief. If Naruto's rage had triggered a breakdown in the Kyuubi's seal, he could have understood that, but these physical traits bore no resemblance to the records of any previous Kyuubi Jinchuriki. The boy, no, the genin, now that he had demonstrated mastery over a Jonin-level jutsu, was attacking Mizuki with focused brutality that would make most professional torturers scream in envy. Naruto's Kage Bushin exploited nerve clusters that caused extreme pain when agitated and joints particularly vulnerable to being broken to reduce the traitorous Chunin to a gibbering mess on the forest floor. With a final sickening crack, the deed was done, and Naruto dispersed his clones before coming over to Iruka's position. "Iruka-sensei, can you move?" Naruto's bloodlust faded in an instant with its target dead and gone. Good, beneath all that he's still Naruto. Iruka tried to stand but his body had taken too many hits from Mizuki's kunai and shuriken. Before he could stumble to the ground, Naruto caught him and began to focus chakra into his hands. Is he trying to heal me? That can't be it. Medical ninjutsu isn't taught in the academy. The knowledge and extreme chakra control required for those techniques was far too specialized for prospective genin. It wasn't until Naruto's chakra entered Iruka's body that he realized what his favorite student was attempting, and his pride swelled to inconceivable heights as he marveled at Naruto's creativity. Indeed, Naruto could not use medical ninjutsu despite his natural affinity for yang release, the parent nature transformation of medical ninjutsu. The chakra used for medical ninjutsu had to be formed in a very special way not known to him, and, even if he did know how to form it, his knowledge of anatomy and physiology was not sufficient enough to use it safely. He could, however, channel yang-released chakra into another's body to augment its natural healing process. Iruka-sensei's wounds were severe, but if he could just stop the bleeding he'd make it to the hospital. Come on, Iruka-sensei. We need to get that stupid scroll back to the old man's tower, and then you need to go to the Naruto pumped as much chakra as he dared into his beloved teacher and hoisted him off the ground before running through the village at a speed no chunin and few jonin could hope to match. Hokage Tower. Hiruzen Sarutobi was speechless for one of the few times in his nearly 80 years. He had observed the entire confrontation through his crystal ball and was in the process of recalling the shinobi he had dispatched to recover the scroll. Naruto's new appearance reminded him of something he had only heard of secondhand from a dear friend. Said friend's description of what the features represented had been superficial at best, but the third Hokage had been told in no uncertain terms that Naruto was not to be told anything about them unless certain criteria were met. The boy dispatched a cage bushin to hurl the scroll of seals into Hiruzen's office. While he carried Iruka to the hospital closest to the Hokage's tower, the ninja known as the Professor began preparations for what may well be the most daunting lecture he'd ever give. Konoha General Hospital. This man needs urgent medical attention. He was ambushed by an enemy shinobi and suffered severe injuries. Naruto stormed into the of Konoha's largest hospital, doing his best not to move Iruka-sensei more than necessary, and made his case to the receptionist. Said receptionist took one look at Naruto, who had regained his normal appearance, and gave him a small mountain of paperwork to fill out before directing them both to the waiting area. Naruto gawked at the spiteful bitch for all of 3 seconds before slinging the 8 clipboards she had given him, one by one, at various points of her body that would see her in pain for the rest of the week. Are you fucking serious? You'd risk killing one of the best teachers in Konoha Academy just because he protected me? No friend of yours is welcome in this hospital, nor any other hospital in this. The woman got no further before realizing that 5 kunai were being pointed at her neck. You can admit my sensei right now, or you can be the next guest of honor in Konoha's morgue. Naruto growled. You have 10 seconds before I make the choice for you. Now let's not be hasty. Wouldn't want to be arrested on the same night you made genin, would you, Naruto-kun? Naruto blinked in surprise at the new voice as his cage bushin vanished and a heavy hand grabbed his shoulder. Surprise turned to admiration as he noticed just who was addressing him. Kakashi Hitaki, I take it the old man wants to see me? If you know who I am, then that makes this easy. Kakashi answered, yes, Lord Hokage wishes to see you immediately. I'm not leaving until Iruka-sensei's been admitted. Make that happen, and you'll have to race me to the tower. I've got a few choice words for the old man myself. Naruto countered. Good to see you're being mature about this. Receptionist-san, I'd consider it a personal favor if Naruto-kun's companion could be admitted. With all haste, the former Anbu commander glared at the vindictive girl, who promptly fled her post to find a doctor. I think she wet herself. If you're my team leader from now on, we'll get along great. Didn't you say something about racing to the copy ninja barely got the words out before a line of dust starting at the ER's door and heading roughly in the direction of Hiruzen's tower became visible. He wasn't kidding about me needing to race him. Kakashi marveled at the boy's speed. Assuming his other physical abilities were comparable to his speed, it wouldn't be inconceivable for him to graduate on taijutsu prowess alone. Realizing now he'd need to review the new genin's grades to see just why he'd failed 3 graduation exams, Kakashi saw a very short amount of sleep in his near future. I'm slower now, but not as slow as before that change happened. Naruto allowed himself a quick glance in a house window to see his reflection. Whatever power had coursed through him before had transformed him from a human boy into something else but didn't permanently alter his features. Yet, His body was still much more powerful than before, and chakra flowed through it more easily than electricity through copper, but there seemed to be a pool of something within his being that was currently dormant. Naruto tried to analyze the nature of this new power with yang release but got no response. Interesting, that means this power has no direct effect on the physical body and originates from my soul. Even the Kyuubi gave me some resonance despite being sealed into my soul, though it's got so much chakra it would be harder not to sense it. Sadly, I've always been terrible with yin release. Shame that every time I've tried to take the graduation exam, the Bushin no Jutsu was on it. Naruto's musings ceased as he arrived at his destination with Kakashi roughly 20 seconds ahead of him. Looks like I win, good try though. Should have seen me when I was killing Mizuki. Traitor wouldn't have been able to run even if he wasn't surrounded by 1000 Kage Bushin. Naruto smirked. Only his mask kept Kakashi's jaw from hitting the floor. 1000 Kage Bushin? By the time Kakashi thought to comment on Naruto's confession, he was halfway up the steps leading to Hiruzen's office. Hokage Tower. Naruto-kun, thank you for accepting my invitation at this late hour. Hiruzen greeted as Naruto and Kakashi walked into his office, a light puff of smoke drifting from his pipe. Have you heard anything about Iruka-sensei's condition? Naruto barely resisted the urge to yell the question. Stable, with a high expectation for a full recovery, Hiruzen answered. You did well getting him there as quickly as you did. Your decisiveness under extreme duress, alone, merits your graduation from the academy, to say nothing of your performance in the confrontation beforehand. Lord Hokage, the receptionist's reluctance to admit Iruka-san demands action. The village's treatment of Naruto-kun, while horrendous, is understandable given his circumstances. However, to refuse treatment to a shinobi merely due to his affiliation with Naruto-kun, a highly respected chunin, no less, cannot be ignored. Kakashi stated. Agreed, Kakashi-san. I shall make it clear in the upcoming council meeting that such acts will not be tolerated. Perhaps the hospitals of Konoha need to be reminded that many of their most gifted physicians are medical ninja and, as such, report directly to me. It shouldn't take more than one, perhaps two, instances of a hospital's entire ninja roster being away on an emergency mission to prove my stance on this issue. Brilliant, old man. Show those fuckers on the council that you can shove their balls into a vice whenever you want. Naruto cackled. Naruto-kun, you are in the presence of the third Hokage. You will not address him in such a disrespectful manner. Kakashi shouted. It's quite all right, Kakashi-san. Naruto-kun's vulgarity is as much a coping mechanism for his trauma as his infamous pranks. If you ever have the misfortune to see his gesture-like facade drop, you'd best pray that you are not the target of his ire. I fear Mizuki learned that lesson far too late. Speaking of which, Naruto-kun, I would like to discuss the transformation you underwent while dispensing justice to a traitor of Konoha. Kakashi gasped. Did the Kyuubi escape? Was the seal broken? It wasn't the fox. Naruto quickly assuaged Kakashi's fears. I've felt its chakra before, and my transformation was fueled by something else entirely. Still not sure what, but it didn't feel like chakra. You felt the Kyuubi's chakra before? Hiruzen asked, concerned that such a thing could occur without the anbu that frequently tailed Naruto realizing it. I'm good with yang release, always have been. A few years ago, I was pulsing yang chakra through my body to see how my muscles were reacting to the academy training, and I felt a massive chakra pool. I tried investigating it several times, but the source was always asleep. I figured it had something to do with why almost everyone hates me, but I didn't know it was the Kyuubi until tonight. Kakashi and Hiruzen sighed in relief. Naruto's natural affinity for yang release was no surprise, given who his mother was, and his explanation of how he experienced the feel of the Kyuubi's chakra was far more preferable to the Kyuubi attempting to communicate with Naruto. The seal I added to suppress the Kyuubi's consciousness is still functioning perfectly then, at least for the moment. Hiruzen said. In the future, please do not probe the mass of chakra within you. I do not know how much longer the suppression seal will last and, once broken, I will not be able to apply it again without risking the stability of the seal keeping the beast locked within you. I could only safely apply the suppression seal within hours of the imprisonment seal's application. Once awake, we must assume the Kyuubi will do anything to escape the seal. All the better for us to know what this other power is then, Naruto agreed. I tried probing it with yang release as well and couldn't detect anything. That tells me that whatever this is bound to my soul, yang release holds no direct influence there. Kakashi was stunned at the boy's assessment of the situation. While the Jonin had no chance to look at his academy records yet, Naruto was universally known as a terrible student and class clown. His near-textbook definitions of yang release's properties and applications were completely opposite to his reputation. Lord Third had called Naruto's typical mannerisms a facade, and Kakashi was now realizing just how much effort the genin had poured into his mask. He didn't want to overstep. He wasn't Naruto's team captain and didn't know if he would be until tomorrow, but he needed to know what he might be getting into. Naruto-kun, you failed the academy graduation exam 3 times. Could you have succeeded in any of those attempts if you wished? At this, Naruto grimaced. Sadly, no. Every time I took the graduation exam the Bushin no Jutsu was on it. That jutsu is derived from yin release, creating stuff from nothing or manipulating intangible concepts like the soul or mind. I'm no good with jutsu like that, likely because I'm so awesome with yang release. Unfortunate, but understandable, here is inside. The jutsu required to pass the graduation exam is determined randomly each year, and there's only so much we can expect an academy student to master. Even so, Lord Hokage, Naruto-kun would have needed to apply for an early graduation exam for his first 2 graduation attempts as only his most recent exam was scheduled for his entire class. For him to be tested on his worst possible jutsu twice, I can pass off as coincidence, but 3 times reeks of conspiracy. I cannot help but wonder if the academy instructors, excluding Iruka-sensei, were not as thorough in their lessons with Naruto-kun as they were with his classmates. Kakashi's accusations brought a smile to Naruto's face. Before Kakashi, only Iruka-sensei had been vocal about Naruto's treatment by most of his other academy instructors, and he was powerless to do anything about it. The possibility cannot be discounted given Konoha's hatred of the Kyuubi. Hiruzen said after a few moments of silence. I will assign Ibiki-san and Anko-san to investigate the matter immediately. Kakashi suppressed a shudder. Though he was glad his master was taking this issue seriously, he did not envy any soul that would soon be on the receiving end of Konoha's most gifted interrogation specialist and torture specialist. I fear we have gotten somewhat off topic. Naruto-kun, the transformation that occurred during your encounter with Mizuki perfectly matches a description provided to me by a very trusted companion of mine. I have never witnessed it firsthand until tonight, but my friend told me that what you experienced is unique to a particular clan and only occurs when specific criteria are met. At this point Hiruzen stood up from his desk and pulled a portrait away from the wall, revealing the safe behind it. After channeling some chakra into the lock to open it, he pulled out a blood-red box small enough to fit in the palm of his hand. The box was covered in numerous sealing arrays. Hiruzen sat back at his desk and placed the box halfway between himself and Naruto. Channel some chakra into the box. The message my friend left said that only the one who transformed as you did earlier would be able to unlock the seals placed upon it. Naruto did as he was instructed, and slowly the seals unraveled. Once they were gone, the box opened and a projection of a man known to all in the room rose from it. Hello, Naruto Uzumaki. I am Minato Namikaze, 4th Hokage of Konoha, and, far more relevant to the contents of this message, I am your father. Hello, Naruto Uzumaki. I am Minato Namikaze, 4th Hokage of Konoha and, far more relevant to the contents of this message, I am your father. The room's inhabitants were shocked. Naruto, at the revelation that the greatest hero in Konoha was his father. And Kakashi and Hiruzen because this message left by Minato blatantly contradicted his dying wish. That would Naruto not be told of his lineage until he came of age or reached Jonin to ensure he would be safe from Minato's many enemies. Before they could vocalize their surprise, the message continued. Now, I'm sure you and anyone watching this message with you must have many questions, but I am simply a chakra construct programmed to convey a message. I cannot respond to questions and, once this message ends, the box containing me will cease to function. If you have been allowed to see this message, then I must assume that you are legally considered an adult, have reached the rank of Jonin, or have been seen utilizing a powerful transformation separate from any manifestations of Kurama's power that you may have invoked. Kurama, the 3 realized, must refer to the Kyuubi. This revelation again surprised them all. It never occurred to them that the monster capable of flattening mountains and causing tsunamis with a single sweep of one of its tails had a name. To properly explain the nature of this transformation, you first need to know something of the founding of Konoha. When Lord Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage, created the village that would eventually be known as Konoha, he invited several clans to be founding members. Many of the clans Hashirama to which extended an invitation had existed for untold generations and had produced many powerful warriors, sages, and priests throughout the eons. The clans that have risen to dominance throughout history have always had one thing in common. All of them can trace their ancestry directly to supernatural beings of immense power. The Senju clan and the Uchiha clan are both descended from Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the sage of six paths. The Nara clan attribute their wonderful shadows to Pluto, a god of the underworld worshipped by a fallen empire. The Sarutobi clan, currently headed by our Honorable Lord III, can trace its ancestry to the Monkey King Son Goku, known now as the Four-Tailed Beast. The list goes on, and my Namikaze clan is no exception. However, my clan's patron is far more ancient than most of the beings from which other clans descend. Even clans with a divine ancestor would be hard-pressed to prove that said ancestor's influence on the world predates my clan's progenitor. The three ninja in the room were nonplussed by this information. Hiruzen and, to a lesser extent, Kakashi were aware that many clans claimed a supernatural lineage, but to hear that some clans were sired by gods was beyond their expectations. Even the Sage of Six Paths, for all his power and knowledge, was ultimately mortal. Naruto was trying his best to absorb all of this information without bias, but his mind balked at the revelation. What type of being could exist in this world before the will of a god was known? In the infancy of this world, Daiyoukai, more commonly called demons, of every variety imaginable hunted the human race whenever they were not fighting amongst themselves. The strongest of these beings, Daiyoukai, commanded vast armies and held dominion over entire continents at the height of their power. The mightiest Daiyoukai of that age, the great dog general Toga, had two sons, the elder with an empress of his own kind and the younger with a human princess. It is from Toga's first son, Sesshomaru, that the Namikaze clan descends. Lord Sesshomaru inherited his father's title as Lord of the Western Lands and all the responsibilities contained therein. According to the Namikaze clan records, he was a harsh, but fair, overlord, demanding nothing but the best from his subjects and rewarding them in kind. In his time, Sesshomaru defended his territory from many powerful foes and threats, sometimes working in tandem with other Daiyoukai or beings of equivalent might against a common enemy, but most often, he fought, and won, alone. Even now, tens of thousands of generations removed from that era, Lord Sesshomaru's essence blazes fiercely in our clan. Every 2 or 3 generations, the demonic blood we inherited from our ancestor will stir, prompting a transformation from human to Yukai. Typically, the change is fleeting and of little consequence. However, in rare cases, the change serves as a beacon for Lord Sesshomaru's spirit, awakening him from his eternal slumber. If our Lord favors a descendant that attracts his attention, the conversion from human to Yukai will occur several times, eventually becoming permanent. Even midway through this process, your body will be enhanced to an incredible degree and you will gain the power to manipulate Yuki. Yuki is demonic energy, a power distinct from chakra, and exists in your being isolated from your chakra network. As such, it cannot be detected by chakra sensing techniques, except by the most potent or complex sensory jutsu derived from yin release. Upon hearing this, Kakashi lifted his headband and gazed upon Naruto with his Sharingan. Through the copy wheel eye, he clearly saw Naruto's blue human chakra and the crimson chakra of the Kyuubi, but he could not see this. Yuki, Minato's message spoke of. Not giving up, he channeled more chakra into his implanted eye and was eventually able to see a pale green sphere located behind the center of Naruto's chakra network. Several darker green tendrils were expanding from this Yuki core and attaching to various nodes of the chakra network but did not seem to be invading them. Instead, they appeared to lying on top of them like an extra layer of energy. Not wanting to miss any of his dead sensei's message, Kakashi used a series of hand signals to inform Hiruzen of his discovery. If you are seeing this message after obtaining the rank of Jonin or becoming a legal adult at age 18, Then you should have already been given the deed and keys to the Namikaze estate before opening the box. If you have not met the aforementioned requirements and are viewing this message as a result of a Yukai transformation, know that it is my will that you receive the entirety of your inheritance as soon as you graduate from the academy. Furthermore, as both your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, and I were the last known members of our respective clans, it is our will that you be recognized as clan head of both the Uzumaki and the Namikaze. Hiruzen's pipe dropped from his mouth. Minato's last statement could best be defined as a political shitstorm. Naruto wasn't even a proper genin yet, as he had not yet been given the true graduation exam by Kakashi. Declaring an unranked ninja to be head of two clans, even if he was the only member of each, was akin to throwing honey on someone already pursued by an entire nest of wasps. The clan head of any shinobi granted the title of Hokage was automatically granted a seat on Konoha's council. Once granted, the seat would remain in the clan's possession until the clan was completely destroyed. As Naruto's relation to Minato was known to the members of the council's shinobi faction, Hiruzen could trust unconditionally. The Namikaze clan retained its seat on the council despite not having anyone to occupy it. The Uzumaki clan was very closely related to the Senju clan, from which two former Hokage hailed, and was a formidable ally to Konoha before its destruction. As such, it held a seat on Konoha's council as well, again with no one to occupy it. Elevating the most hated citizen of Konoha to these lofty positions would doom the boy. What were Minato and Kushina thinking when they made this decision? If Hiruzen or his successor is hearing this, I imagine they must be questioning at least my sanity, if not your mother's. To answer their unspoken questions, I offer a precept from Lord Sesshomaru. As my territory is mine, your territory is yours. Permit only those you acknowledge and kin or friend to dwell within it. If any would seek to deny you your birthright, strike them down without hesitation. The will of a Daiyoukai is law. It does not bend, it cannot break, it will not yield. Naruto silently swore an oath on the graves of his parents. Never would he allow a citizen of Konoha to degrade him again without just cause. For years he had masked his disgust for his treatment with pranks and feigned incompetence. No more. He was the vessel for the mightiest of the tailed beasts and the favored descendant of one of the most powerful beings to ever exist. A true leader, he remembered from a book on ethics Hiruzen gave him earlier this year, strives to be both loved and feared, but if achieving this is not possible, if a leader must choose between being loved and being feared, then the second option is far more productive than the first. Naruto would show love to his friends, who currently consisted of the family that runs Ichiraku Ramen, Iruka-sensei, Kakashi, soon-to-be sensei, Hiruzen, and, ironically, Sasuke. The two had a rivalry dating back years that had grudgingly led to a silent acknowledgement of each other's shitty pasts and skills. All others, save those who genuinely meant to be his friend, would learn to fear Naruto or die trying. At the moment, he was not powerful enough to exert his will on Konoha. That would soon change. His Yuki pool was currently limited, but as it expanded, he would be able to rival, if not defeat, all but the most talented Konoha shinobi. Add Kurama's chakra to the equation. Once he learned how to safely harness it, and the rest, as they say, is history. Your mother left her own message in the Namikaze estate. As she was Kurama's Jinchuriki before you, she had far more insight into that aspect of your inheritance than I. All I will say on the matter is this. Try to approach the Kitsune with an open mind. Though she holds no great love for humanity, she is not nearly as malevolent as most would portray her. Her assault on Konoha was not by choice. With those final words, the ghostly visage of Minato Namikaze vanished from view, and the message box disintegrated into dust. The three shinobi stood wordlessly for what seemed several minutes before Hiruzen bit his thumb hard enough to draw blood and smeared some of the precious liquid onto the bottom left drawer of his desk. The blood seal, cunningly disguised as elaborate woodwork, vanished as the drawer popped open, revealing two sealed scrolls, one far thicker than the other, and a thin, disc-like piece of metal serrated at several different depths and intervals throughout its circumference. These were given to Naruto as Hiruzen explained their purposes. The smaller of those scrolls is the deed to the Namikaze estate. The larger is a list of jutsu favored by your parents and includes instructions on how to perform some of their signature techniques. Full instructions are sealed within the jutsu archive they kept in the basement of their mansion. This disc is the master key to all blood seals both in the Namikaze mansion and the territories in Konoha owned by both the Namikaze and Uzumaki. Per the last will and testament prepared well before their untimely deaths on the date of the Kurama's attack, all of this was to be granted to you either after reaching 18 years of age or obtaining the rank of Jonin. The message box to which we just listened was given to me mere days before their demise. From the timing of its delivery, I must assume that your parents had a method of confirming, before you were born, both if your demonic blood would stir and if the reaction would be enough to attract Sesshomaru-sama's attention. That Hiruzen Sarutobi, Hokage of Konoha and one of the most powerful, arguably the most powerful, shinobi currently alive addressed his clan founder with reverence was not lost on Naruto, and his already great respect for the old man skyrocketed. He pocketed the 2 scrolls. He would read them in his own time. But as he reached to grab the master key, it spun swiftly in his left hand, drawing a thin line of blood. The blood snaked its way to the center of the key through barely perceptible grooves, soon revealed to be etched to resemble the Uzumaki clan symbol. And as the blood reached the center, the entire key turned blood red and vanished into Naruto's hand, leaving behind only a miniature version of the Uzumaki clan symbol, which also quickly disappeared. Naruto created 10 Kage Bushin and directed them to leave Hiruzen's office through the window. "They're going to my apartment to get all my stuff," Naruto answered his senior's unspoken question. "We're moving me into Dad's mansion now, right?" "Such wonderful foresight from a class clown," Hiruzen said in jest. "If this is the new norm for you, it will take some getting used to. Imagine the shock of all your classmates. They'll get used to it, one way or another. Can we go now?" Naruto asked. "Lord Hokage, please allow me to accompany you and Naruto-kun to Minato-sama's manor." Kakashi's good eye gleamed with determination. "Were it solely my decision, you would never need to ask," Hiruzen said as he relit his pipe. "Of Minato-sama's 3 students, only you still live and are as close to family as one can be without a blood connection. However, the manor is Naruto Dono's now and, as the acting head of the Namikaze clan, the final decision is rightfully his." "Kakashi-san, I've known you for less than a day," Naruto began. "In that time you've stopped me from recklessly getting myself arrested, helped me get Iruka-sensei medical attention he desperately needed, advised Hiruzen-sama that both the civilians of Konoha and most of my academy instructors need to be investigated for what they've put me through, used your Sharingan to verify the truth of my father's message and informed Hiruzen of your discovery, and asked to be invited into my mansion instead of presuming you had the right just because you were my father's student. I've researched all the Jonin who might have become my sensei after I graduated. Asuma-san, Kurenai-san, and you. Nothing I've been able to find out about you, and especially nothing you've shown me tonight, indicates that you are unworthy of your request. As acting head of both Clan Namikaze and Clan Uzumaki, I grant you permission to visit the Namikaze estate whenever you wish." As Naruto finished granting his approval, a crimson flash lit up the room. As it faded, a small line of blood trickled down Kakashi's cheek, and the master key sunk back into Naruto's hand. "No need to give me permission to enter, I have my own key," Hiruzen said. After all, someone had to send maids in to keep the place from getting covered in dust and make sure all of the protective seals on the manor stayed intact. "Great, let's go," Naruto shouted. "A moment longer, young man." Hiruzen gave Naruto 3 smaller discs, similar in composition to the master key but only half the size and with no serrations. "These are keys to your new estates that have not been claimed by anyone. You can freely alter what these keys can or cannot unlock, but some portions of your new property can only be accessed with the master key, Naruto Dono. If necessary, your family's vault contains instructions on how to create more keys. To clarify, the verbal consent you granted Kakashi-san grants him near total access to the estates as it was granted using the master key. These lesser keys allow you to grant others partial access to your estates, though you may alter them to grant higher or lower levels of access at any time using the master key." "How much access does your key grant?" Naruto was curious how much his parents trusted his grandfather figure. "Nearly full access, the same level as Kakashi. The only areas I cannot reach are the basement where the Namikaze and Uzumaki Jutsu archives are located and certain portions of their territory that are of great ceremonial importance." Where in Konoha is my mansion? Near the Hyuga compound, Kakashi answered. Hiyashi Hyuga, the current head of the Hyuga clan, was among Minato-sensei's closest friends. I don't know if he was entrusted with the knowledge of Lord Sesshomaru's legacy and how it may affect you, but he is aware that you are Minato-sensei's son. Like all others who know, he was sworn to secrecy to prevent you from being targeted by Minato-sensei's enemies. So, I shouldn't be surprised if he decides to pay me a visit once I move into my new home? Naruto sighed. Indeed, Hiruzen answered, if you gain his respect, he will also be a great asset in granting you your 2 seats on Konoha's council with minimal bloodshed. As much as I would love to grant Minato-sama's and Kushina-sama's request immediately, you must understand that attempting such a thing now would be disastrous. To a man, the civilian faction of the council would reject the notion, and many clan heads of the shinobi faction would deny you as well, though their justification would be your lack of experience more than blind hatred of Kurama. That's acceptable for now, but make no mistake, Hiruzen. I know that I have received Sesshomaru-sama's favor, and I will become a Daiyoukai in time. I will only wait so long for Konoha to revise its opinion of me before taking what is rightfully mine. Naruto swore. When that time comes, you will have my full support. To my shame, I have let the civilian faction get away with far too much in recent years. But we have wasted enough time in this dreary tower. Your new home awaits. It's getting late, Naruto mused as he walked towards his new home. Around 9 o'clock if the position of the moon is anything to go by. Worried about the time? Kakashi asked after noticing the newly minted clan head's skyward glance. I can't blame you. Tomorrow you'll be officially assigned to a shinobi team. You must be drooling to get into your clan vault to learn as much as you can about your heritage, but I must advise against pulling an all-nighter in there. You never know what your team leader will have you do on your first day. Hilarious, Naruto snorted. You really think, after everything we just listened to, that Hiruzen won't make you my team leader? Guilty as charged, the Sandaime replied, but, as a shinobi, you must be prepared for any eventuality. Minato-sama did not attain his power and status by being complacent. Your distant ancestor Sesshomaru-sama may well have been powerful enough that such caution was unnecessary, but you are still mostly human. At this point there was a small commotion as the trio met with the 10-cage bushin Naruto created earlier. Storage scrolls? Kakashi pondered after noticing that none of the clones seemed to be carrying anything. One of the first things I taught myself. It worked wonders when pranking my shitty landlord. Bastard was always charging extra rent. Pity he could never prove who was always raiding his safe. Naruto smirked. Taijutsu capable of felling a chunin. An affinity for yang release potent enough to create 1000 cage bushin with ease, and the beginning steps of fuinjutsu. Hiruzen counted off his fingers. Even if our investigation finds that your repeated failure of the academy graduation exam was nothing more than cruel coincidence, there is no doubt that you didn't belong there anymore and likely had not for some time. If you had disclosed even a sliver of your true talents during your academy years, your graduation exam results would have merited the same scrutiny long ago that they will be getting now. And paint an even bigger target on my back when I still didn't know why I was hated by everyone except Iruka-sensei. Naruto shot back. Hiruzen and Kakashi grimaced. By doing their best to honor Minato and Kushina's dying wish, they had locked Naruto into a cage of isolation. The best workaround Hiruzen could conceive, his law forbidding anyone in Konoha from revealing Naruto was a Jinchuriki, was nowhere near enough, and now Konoha may well pay the price for Hiruzen's half-measure. They dared not ask exactly how long Naruto was willing to wait before claiming the council seats he inherited by force. Eventually, the three arrived at a building more worthy of being called a castle than a mansion. Its exterior was made of marble and retained the near-pure white color for which the material was known despite years of minimal maintenance, causing Naruto to suspect that a self-repairing jutsu must have been applied to the entire structure. He didn't know whether to be awestruck by his ancestors' commitment to the longevity of their home or cringe at the time and resources that constructing such a jutsu array must have consumed. Intricate red honeycomb designs decorated the walls of the mansion, with other insignias colored blue, purple, green, and black interwoven among them. Are those barrier seals? Kakashi marveled after analyzing the artwork before them. Some of them are, but the function of many of these seals is a mystery, even to me. Hiruzen answered. The Namikaze estate is likely the most fortified building in all of Konoha by a substantial margin. Why do you think none of Minato-sama's enemies dared to raid this place even during times when Konoha's security was gravely compromised? Such as right after Kurama attacked the village? Can't imagine that there were a ton of ninja to spare around then. Naruto speculated. Indeed, the Iwa, and even the Kumo, took advantage of the chaos and tried to destroy us. We lost more lives to them than to Kurama. Luckily, Suna came to our aid, if only because the Cage feared his village would be next if Iwa or Kumo succeeded. Hiruzen confirmed. What of Kiri? Naruto inquired. Officially, they remained neutral, but once Iwa and Kumo were repulsed, we received charitable donations of seafood and construction materials for several years afterwards. Curiously, Kumo did not protest despite the strain such charity must have placed on the trade agreements they have in place with Kiri. Kakashi supplied. Economic sanctions? Kumo's mountainous terrain is a nightmare to invade, but there can't be much farmable land. The Rikage must have been shitting bricks after realizing he couldn't get his claws on Konoha's forests. Naruto cackled. Quite right, Kumo had to choose between limited trade with Kiri or none at all. A pity those sanctions no longer exist, but as Konoha recovered, Kiri became hard-pressed to justify maintaining them. Aside from us, no country involved in the conflict committed quite enough resources to the effort to warrant calling it a war, though it very nearly became one. Hiruzen said sullenly. As riveting as this history lesson is, Lord Hokage, I for one would very much like to see the inside of my sensei's manor. Kakashi said as the trio arrived at the mansion's outer gate. Ask, and you shall receive. Naruto didn't even need to raise his hand to gain entry into his castle. The main gate, secondary gate, and front door all opened as if welcoming a long-lost friend. Once the trio entered the house, the door and gates locked themselves behind them. Exquisite security. Good thing you have a key, and I have permission to come and go at will. Hopefully, we'll never need to see just how thoroughly protected Naruto's home is. Kakashi critiqued. Please follow me, Naruto Dono. I've accompanied my maids here enough times to give you a tour of your ancestral home. Hiruzen led the way into the mansion. Naruto and Kakashi gasped as they looked around the Namikaze mansion. The interior floors and walls were also made of marble, but rubies and garnets appeared to have been crushed and blended into the white stone, giving it a checkered appearance reminiscent of blood splattered upon a snowy battlefield. Closer to the ceiling the reds were less prominent, and the white was dyed to gradually fade into the silver gray of the ceiling. At no point was this color scheme offensive to the eyes. Instead, the display evoked a flawless synergy of elegance and might. Your mansion has 3 stories, Naruto Dono. The first floor contains the entry hall, our current position, the dining room and kitchen, an onsen, and the master bedroom. Hiruzen stated, beginning the tour with the kitchen. Once again Naruto was shocked at the combination of wealth and practicality portrayed by his clan. The cutlery in the kitchen was all fashioned from ivory while tools meant for cooking were made of ebony. While many would consider these precious materials wasted on kitchen utensils, Naruto knew better. Ivory and ebony are both incredibly durable, water-resistant, and polished easily. Ebony is also an especially dense variety of wood, making it ideal to use in cooking or baking. The kitchen's pantry, refrigerator, and freezer were fully stocked with perishables that were in pristine condition due to the time suspension seals contained within all compartments and appliances. Naruto felt somewhat sheepish as he contemplated making meals from top-quality meat and produce with his meager cooking skills. The survival skills that begged perfecting for his life before receiving his inheritance left him little time to devote to the culinary arts. His eyes widened as he viewed the large liquor cabinet, naturally also fully stocked, with not only several types of sake but also different beers, wines, and other spirits Naruto could not discern. Is that rum? Kakashi hissed in shock. I thought the making of that spirit was a lost art in the elemental nations. The only times I've partaken of it was during escort missions involving particularly foreign dignitaries. Hiruzen pulled out a bottle of the accused beverage and nearly dropped it after reading the year it was made. The Namikaze either once had a talented brewer in their ranks, or were in exceptional standing with merchant clans that had not existed for hundreds of years. Naruto Dono, I'll not lecture you about a shinobi's 3 fatal vices, but unless your clan vault has instructions on how to create these spirits, Consider anything in this cabinet that isn't beer, wine, or sake as irreplaceable. No doubt they were crafted and aged to perfection before being bottled. Indulge if you must, but, for the sake of liquor connoisseurs the world over, please exercise restraint. Naruto chuckled. Your desire to partake of my liquor cabinet at a more opportune time is noted, old man. If Kakashi-sensei is available at said time, he is welcome as well. I'm not your sensei yet. Kakashi snapped. You will be in less than 12 hours. Why not address you as such now? Naruto retaliated. There's a principle to these things, young man. Kakashi glared at his future student. I'm the youngest clan head in the history of Konoha. If not the world, and I lead 2 clans at that. Your embarrassment is none of my concern. Naruto shrugged. Kakashi grumbled as they continued into the dining room. Here the red-white color scheme of the mansion was subdued, mixed with light brown to give it a more earthy tone and lessen the potential distraction the more vibrant version seen previously could have while eating. The dining table was long enough to fit at least a dozen on each side and was made of mahogany, carved so beautifully that Naruto was convinced the table was made from one gigantic tree instead of being the product of several trees. There was also a set of smaller tables with accompanying chairs and sofas farther back in the room to allow for more casual dining. On the ceiling hung 3 chandeliers covered in silver globes. Kakashi noticed a seal array on the wall closest to the kitchen and channeled some chakra into it. Instantly the orbs blazed to life, bathing the room in pale light. Like dawn's first rays, Naruto whispered. Indeed, it never fails to take my breath away. Hiruzen replied. How long do they stay lit once chakra is applied to the seal? Naruto asked. If you channel enough chakra to create 1 cage bushin, they will remain active for 3 hours. If you don't need the room lit for that long, the seal can also be utilized to deactivate the chandeliers and return the unused chakra to you. You can also keep the light seals charged with chakra without activating them. Hiruzen responded. And the entire mansion is illuminated this way? Kakashi asked. Yes. Apparently the Namikaze clan believed that the lord of this estate would always have enough chakra to keep the lights on. The only rooms that have electrical lighting in addition to the chakra lights are the kitchen, the sparring room on the 2nd floor, and the guest rooms on the 3rd floor. Speaking of which, Naruto Dono, the 2nd floor also contains a chemistry laboratory and an armory which doubles as a trophy room. Hiruzen turned towards one of the mansion's 2 main staircases. Naruto all but ran up the stairs to the 2nd floor, giving the sparring room a passing glance before opening the armory. Numerous racks containing nearly every conceivable weapon type of melee weapon adorned the walls. Some showed no signs of previous use while others were clearly the spoils of war, and all were of exceptional quality. However, Naruto couldn't help but feel let down by what he didn't see. I'm sure any weapons or armor with unique traits are in the clan vault. Kakashi addressed Naruto's unspoken criticism as he and Hiruzen entered the armory. Naruto beamed with delight as he left the armory and headed towards the chemistry lab. Here, he was out of his element. Aside from what was taught in the academy, a class he failed horribly due to the instructor's interference, he knew nothing of chemistry. Fortunately, it seemed his parents had prepared for this eventuality, as he noticed several books on the subject on one of the shelves. The titles of some clearly indicated that they were intended for a novice. The 3rd floor consists of 8 bedrooms. As you will be sleeping in the master bedroom, I dare say this tour is concluded. However, there is one more thing I must show you before we move on to the basement. Hiruzen led Naruto and Kakashi to the mansion's rear entrance. At first glance, it seemed only to be a small corridor near the kitchen, presumably designed to bring in food or other supplies. Naruto unlocked the door and stepped through the threshold, and he immediately vanished from sight. Before Kakashi could react, Hiruzen gripped his shoulder and hummed contentedly. The ex-Anbu commander relaxed, realizing that Naruto was in no danger. In a few minutes, Naruto returned looking like he had just rediscovered a long-lost favorite toy. That was awesome. I was transported to a seal array really deep in the forest and there were buildings with the Uzumaki clan symbol there. Does this door lead to multiple locations? The door leads to several patches of forest claimed by the Uzumaki and the Namikaze, Naruto Dono. Their locations relative to the village proper, purpose, and how to reach them using the seal array placed on this door are entailed here. Hiruzen answered as he handed over a small notepad. With this, All that remains is the basement. I have never been down there. The entrance is protected by several layers of seals and barriers that allow only those bearing the blood and soul of a Namikaze to pass. All others are utterly destroyed. It is currently 11:30 p.m., and I would echo Kakashi-san's warning. Exercise discretion tonight regarding the final aspect of your inheritance. As you command, Hiruzen. Naruto gave a formal bow, rather stiffly as he had never done so before, and was performing, from memory, the movements he had read about in the Academy's library. Well, now, perhaps it was for the best that Naruto-kun cultivated a reputation for being a terrible student. We should give the head librarian a raise. Clearly, Naruto learned far more while skipping classes than he ever would have inside of them. Kakashi proposed. Things got harder when I was old enough to start attending Iruka-sensei's classes. Naruto grimaced. He was the only instructor who cared, and skipping my other classes made things rough on him. I never wanted that, so I started attending my other classes more often to keep the peace. Hiruzen, many of my teachers beat me when I failed their tests. When your investigation finds them guilty, I want all of their right hands. They wronged me out of petty spite against a monster beyond their reach. They should count themselves lucky I don't take their heads. If my investigation yields conclusive evidence that you were neglected and abused during your academy years, you shall have the retribution you have requested and more. Hiruzen promised. I have been far too lenient these past several years, but this village shall remember why I am feared as the god of shinobi. Well said, Lord Hokage, but with that we should take our leave. Naruto-kun, here's one last graduation present from me. Kakashi tossed Naruto a wristwatch before leaving the Namikaze mansion with Hiruzen. Rooftop of the Namikaze mansion. The Root Nin, code-named Taka, watched Kakashi and Hiruzen depart and summoned a messenger hawk. The 10th such summon this evening, and attached yet another note to its leg to conclude his report to Danzo-sama. The agent had carefully attached a surveillance seal to one of Naruto's cage bushin as it left his apartment for, at the time, an unknown destination. That cage bushin had long since been dispelled, but the surveillance seal was meant to be used against cage bushin users and imprinted itself on the original's body once their clone was dispelled. The agent of Danzo had heard every word spoken since Naruto's cage bushin met the original and his two traveling companions. The news that the Kyuubi brat stood to inherit two of the most vaunted clan council seats in Konoha, seats that Danzo-sama himself had repeatedly moved to be either removed from the council or transferred into his name, demanded immediate action. Taka's final missive included a request for a suppression and retrieval operation to be approved and executed immediately. Danzo-sama's plan to let the village's hatred of Naruto slowly bring him to despair before approaching with promises of support and gratification was no longer possible, given the evening's earlier conversations. Taka moved to leap off the roof of the Namikaze mansion onto one of the surrounding buildings to better assess the mansion's structure for viable entry points, but his feet betrayed his brain and he fell instead. Before the traitorous ex-Anbu ninja could even think to get up, the sound of shattering glass echoed all around him, and he realized his doom. One of the numerous seal arrays adorning the mansion's exterior had ensnared him long ago without him noticing and had been slowly draining the life from him, as if a sadistic Venus flytrap had chosen to steadily clamp down on its prey rather than do so instantly. He noticed all 10 of his summoned hawks similarly pinned to the roof, not desummoned, dead, with their attached messages burned to ashes. Too drained to move, or even speak, Taka died lamenting only that he had no way of warning Danzo-sama of the monstrous defense Naruto had inherited. Namikaze Clan Vault. With great effort, Naruto resisted his impulse to explore the Namikaze Vault in detail and only took a cursory look around. Even in this surface-level inspection, his clan's archives did not disappoint. Scrolls pertaining to jutsu of every nature transformation were arranged by type and rank, and a large bookshelf was filled with tomes pertaining only to chakra manipulation. Fuinjutsu and barrier jutsu were also spoken for. As Naruto ventured further into the vault, he discovered his clan's historical records and several shelves devoted to the manipulation of Yuki and the nature of the Yukai transformation. Eventually, he came across a door with 10-fold the security as the vault's entrance. His clan's ultimate treasures were surely behind this door. As the new lord of the Namikaze reached to open this final door, the alarm he set on his new wristwatch rang. It was now 1 a.m., time for bed. There would be ample time to fully explore his vault later. Naruto's cage Bushin had deposited everything he had taken from his old apartment in the master bedroom earlier. Naruto only unsealed from his storage scrolls what he felt he would need for tomorrow and quickly fell asleep. Most of the students who had passed the graduation exam were present in Iruka's classroom. Naruto walked into the classroom and took his normal seat. Shikamaru Nara was about to berate Naruto for showing up when he didn't graduate, but he thought better of it when he noticed the blonde boy's demeanor. Gone was the irredeemable klutz, and in its place stood a warrior. "Good morning, Shikamaru-san," to answer the entire class in spoken question. "I most certainly did fail the graduation exam but was offered an alternative means to prove myself by Mizuki-sensei and succeeded. If the traitorous scum was still alive, I'm sure he'd agree I met all of his expectations and more." "Bullshit. Mizuki-sensei's a chunin. You expect us to believe not only that he's a traitor but that you, dead last of our class, took him out?" Kiba Inuzuka voiced the incredulity shared by most in the class. "I'd rather not repeat myself, Kiba-chan. What does your partner, Akamaru, think of my statement? Surely, as a ninja hound, he's been trained to detect lies." Naruto retorted. Kiba looked at her partner and received an affirmative bark in response. Naruto was being truthful. "Hey, the Dobi finally decided to take the gloves off, did he? About damn time." Sasuke Uchiha, top of his class and last of his clan, didn't doubt Naruto for a second. Everyone here was 12 years old and had entered the academy when they were 5 years old. 7 years is a long time to learn about someone if you have the desire, and Sasuke was intrigued by Naruto's circumstances from nearly the first day they met. Like him, the boy was an orphan, but no one seemed to know who his parents were. This, by itself, wasn't unusual. The Kyuubi no Kitsunes attacked 12 years ago and the subsequent skirmishes with the Kumo and the Iwa had left many orphans in their wake and devastated Konoha's infrastructure. It was very plausible that Naruto's parents had died, and all records pertaining to his birth and lineage had been lost. What puzzled not only Sasuke but many other students in the class, though most would never admit it, was that Naruto was despised by nearly every adult he encountered. It made no sense. Naruto wasn't the Kyuubi and an infant certainly couldn't be responsible for Iwa's and Kumo's invasion. Naruto had always laughed off his terrible treatment, seemingly lashing against his fate with jokes and pranks. Sasuke never bought it. He didn't know the reason behind Naruto's circumstances but, as someone devastated by the loss of his entire clan, he knew a false front when he saw one. Naruto hid his true self well, very well. But the last Uchiha caught every instant the mask slipped in his presence. It mostly came out in their daily taijutsu spars. Typically, Naruto pretended to be terrible at hand-to-hand combat but, when he felt like winning a match, he was a terror. His forms seemed impractical, but they concealed a brutal efficiency that never failed to secure his victory when utilized. Sasuke was a proud young man, perhaps too confident in his abilities, but his losses to Naruto never angered him. On the contrary, the avant-garde nature of his true fighting style served as inspiration for Sasuke to refine his own techniques, and he relished every moment he fought the real Naruto Uzumaki. Sadly, these moments were few and far between. The Dobi was careful to win sparingly to ensure his achievements could only be attributed to blind luck. Furthermore, he had never seen Naruto drop his mask while sparring against anyone else in their class. It was often said that true shinobi could discern each other's intent entirely by exchanging blows, and Sasuke knew this to be true. Naruto unveiled himself before Sasuke out of empathy and mutual understanding. He did not pity Sasuke's circumstances, but offered support the only way he could without overplaying his hand. For that, Sasuke would always be grateful to Naruto. Sasuke's musings were interrupted by the simultaneous arrival of Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka, their meaningless argument dying mid-breath as they saw the class clown. A stern look from Shikamaru silenced Ino's protest before it could begin, but Sakura's fury was not so easily calmed. "Naruto, how dare you wear that headband when you failed the graduation exam? You have no right to." Sakura's wrath swiftly transmuted to agony as Naruto leapt from his seat, grabbed her right wrist in a vice-like grip and slammed her against the chalkboard at the front of the classroom. "Make no mistake, girl. I have more than earned my place here today. That you may be my teammate in the very near future is the only reason I don't shatter your arm now. I acknowledge that my frequent attempts to court you have been a source of irritation, especially since you prefer Sasuke, but if you ever raise your voice to me unprovoked again, I shall tear out your vocal cords and feed them to the nearest animal. Do we have an understanding? Naruto growled, too shocked to speak and on the verge of tears. Sakura could only meekly nod and flee to the corner of the room farthest away from Naruto's normal seat. Naruto turned to address the class. We are all shinobi now. There will never be a better opportunity for me to say this than today. The Naruto Uzumaki who you spent 7 years ridiculing was a facade meant to lessen Konoha's hatred of me. Last night I had the privilege of learning exactly why all your parents told you to interact with me as little as possible and to treat me with utmost distrust and derision. The reason is an S-rank secret, and the penalty for revealing it without Hokage-sama's express consent is death for both the one who disclosed the secret and the recipient. There are only 2 people in this room who dared to defy the social norm set by the adults of this village. They, alone, have my undying respect. In my eyes, the rest of you are no different from every shopkeeper who refused to sell to me, my landlord who charged absurd rental rates, and the restaurant owners who served me undercooked food and poisoned drinks. If you want my opinion to change, you must earn my respect. It won't be easy. 7 years is no small span of time, but I will accept as a friend any who genuinely strives to correct their behavior. Those of you who don't should be grateful we don't live in Kiri, over there. Academy students must kill each other to earn their graduation. Naruto-kun, that's enough. Iruka's interruption as he entered the room was more plea than command, as he could not blame the Jinchuriki for expressing his rage. A speech like that isn't half bad as far as intimidation attempts go. Kid's got the knack for being a decent interrogator if frontline duty doesn't work out for him. Ibiki commented as he followed Iruka into the classroom. Are you blind, Ibiki-san? They were all damn near wetting themselves when Naruto-kun had Sakura-chan against the wall. The speech was just the final nail in the coffin for most of them. Anko cheered as she entered the classroom behind her peers. Why yes, well, Iruka coughed. I was going to start by saying that Naruto rightfully graduated in his own way, but that's no longer needed. Iruka-sensei, what Naruto just said, what he just did, there has to be repercussions for all that, right? He can't just be allowed to nearly break Sakura's arm and treat us all like garbage for no reason. In her shock, Ino's hatred for her rival was momentarily forgotten. That's actually what we're here for, young lady. Anko addressed the Yamanaka heiress. Due to recent developments, Hokage-sama suspects that Naruto-kun hasn't gotten a fair shake here at Konoha's academy, so Ibiki-san and I will be interviewing all of you immediately after Iruka-san finishes establishing your teams. I'm sure all of you are dying to get with your new Jonin instructors and embark on your first missions, but this is of the utmost importance. Your new sensei have all been informed of the delay. On that note, Iruka began. The 9 of you here shall be assigned to the following teams. Team 10, under Jonin Asuma Sarutobi, will consist of Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Choji Akamichi. No surprise there, students from those 3 clans have been teamed up as far back as I could research. Makes me wonder if their clan's supernatural ancestors were related, or if they were originally one clan that had to split up and specialize in different skills for some reason. Naruto mused. Team 7, under Jonin Kakashi Hitaki, Iruka proceeded. Naruto's internal musings ceased as his sensei's next words held nearly as much weight to him as his father's message. Shall consist of Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, and Hinata Hyuga. Hell, yes. Naruto felt like he'd just won the lottery. Kakashi-sensei was a given after last night, but these 2 were his dream team. Between Sasuke's future Sharingan and ambition, Hinata's Byakugan and devotion, and his demonic lineage, nothing would be able to stop them. Well, Dobi, looks like I'll have ample opportunity to work all the kinks out of that ridiculous fighting style of yours. Sasuke's eyes gleamed with delight. Sure thing, Teme, and, who knows, maybe I'll teach you a few things as well. Naruto responded eagerly. I'll just bet. Sasuke agreed. If Naruto's earlier actions hadn't provoked a fight or flight response from every genin in the room, Hinata would have fainted from delight upon learning she was on the same team as her crush. As it was, the relief from learning she'd be on Naruto's team eased much of the stress the boy's actions had caused her. She refused to believe that the Naruto she'd stalked these past 7 years existed only to deceive everyone. After all, you couldn't be that good at faking something if you didn't truly understand and believe in it. Team 8, under Jonin Kurenai Yuhi, will consist of Shino Aburame, Kiba Inuzuka, and Sakura Haruno. Iruka finished. Well, someone had to get stuck with Sakura. I'm stoked it's not me, but I wouldn't wish her on anyone here. Naruto suppressed a grimace. As far as I can tell, the bitch only applied for ninja courses to chase after Sasuke. The only thing she's got going for her is near flawless chakra control, and that's not worth a damn when she doesn't have any good jutsu to put it towards. Plus, I'm sure she won't be live down being without her precious Sasuke-kun anytime soon. Hopefully, Kurenai-san can whip her into shape before Team 8 embarks on any risky missions. Luckily, her new teammates won't take any of her shit. Kiba-chan doesn't accept criticism from anyone who can't put their fists where their mouth is, and Shino-kun's stoicism puts Sasuke's brooding to shame. NNND, now that your teams are established, let's get these interviews out of the way. We've got quite a few questions for all of you, and the sooner we're done, the sooner you can be on the way to becoming real shinobi. Anko said with glee. Everyone except Naruto, leave the room now. You will wait outside until you are called. Iruka-san. Anyone who attempts to flee or eavesdrop, or expresses discontent with these proceedings, is to be stripped of their genin rank immediately. Ibiki ordered. You can't just. A kunai thrown by Anko halted Choji's protest. We can, and we will. Hokage-sama takes this matter very seriously, and none of you have the right to oppose this investigation in any way. Strictly speaking, Choji's outburst just now was enough to remove his headband, but, since the interviews haven't officially started yet, I'll ignore it in the spirit of fair play. That's your first and final warning. Now, get out. Choji cupped a hand to his bleeding cheek and left the room with the other 7 new genin trailing behind him. Hinata caught up and offered him some healing ointment, which he gratefully accepted. It was nearly 6 hours later when the 9 interviews were completed. Naruto's was a simple affair, as he only had to list his grievances and accusations for the record along with as much context as he could remember. The genin who had minimal interactions with Naruto, Choji, Ino, and Shino, also had relatively quick interviews since they had comparatively little to comment on. Sasuke and Hinata's interviews were the longest due to the former's well-known rivalry with Naruto and the latter's habit of stalking him. Shikamaru's analysis and speculations concerning the past 7 years' many incidents were invaluable, and Kiba recalled several instances where Akamaru alerted her to an instructor's deceitful activity involving Naruto's education. A black cornucopia of names, dates and places was filled to nearly bursting between the interviewees. Sakura, ironically, was among Naruto's best character witnesses. As much as his flirting annoyed her, she was quite cognizant of the harmless and attention-seeking nature of the boy's pranks. Furthermore, her obsession with Sasuke made her suspicious of Naruto's miraculous wins against the Uchiha prodigy, lending credence to the supposition that Naruto could have done far worse if he'd truly been pushed over the edge. Konoha Academy, conference room. By the log and the sage, how did it come anywhere close to this? Anko shrieked. Every day that poor boy breathes, he spares us from the Kyuubi's wrath. This village should be worshipping every inch of ground he walks on. Instead, we have a litany of dates of Naruto being all but forced to dumpster dive for a meal. Retired shinobi turned shopkeepers hurling weapons at him if he ventured anywhere near their stores, and these teachers. If even a fifth of what's in these statements is true, then it's a miracle Naruto-kun didn't snap ages ago. The most dangerous bomb in Konoha's history, and nearly everyone doused him in oil and all but lit the fuse. We have failed Naruto, each and every one of us. Ibiki replied. The civilians in their senseless hate, the instructors in their blatant bias, the elite shinobi in refusing to give aid to a child in desperate need of it, his fellow students in acting like sheep instead of wolves, and, above everyone, Hokage-sama for allowing it all to happen. We should have treated Naruto like the son of a Hokage as always was, damn Minato-sama's enemies and Danzo's machinations. Before today, never would I have dreamed that I could be ashamed of the village I swore to protect, but Konoha is no longer the utopia Hashirama-sama envisioned. Perhaps it never was. I'm going to write up an interim report summarizing the genin statements. While I'm doing that, would you mind interrogating the instructors? If I'm in the same room as any of them right now, things will get very bloody. Anko declared. That's fine, as an interrogation specialist I can deal with results like this with somewhat more grace than you, Anko-san. The one good thing we learned in all this is that Naruto-kun is incredibly strong-willed. What he's experienced would break most children his age several times over. If our final report corroborates the interim report, I swear heads are going to roll. Anko resisted the urge to punch the nearest wall. Regarding that, you might want to request an Anbu regiment to be on standby. If this goes as we both suspect, then you'll be rather busy tonight. Ibiki said coyly. What do you mean? Anko asked. Didn't Hokage-sama tell you? Ibiki replied with a shit-eating grin. Naruto-kun requested the right hand of everyone in the academy who wronged him, and said request was tentatively approved pending the results of our investigation. While Naruto's alleged, true prowess, for some of his peers leaves little doubt that he could perform the deed to satisfaction on his own, surely he would not object to the presence and advice of Konoha's best torturer? The smile Anko gave in response was sufficiently angelic to rouse envy in Lady Venus herself. Konoha Academy, rooftop. Now then, those interviews ate up quite a bit of time, so I won't keep you three long. For today, I'd like to start with introductions. Tell me your name, likes and dislikes, hobbies, and dreams for the future. Kakashi looked at his three new students. When seeking an introduction, is not proper to introduce oneself first, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto countered. Well, you got me there, Naruto-kun. My name is Kakashi Hitaki. I'd rather not mention my likes and dislikes now. You'll get to know them soon enough, if you're lucky. I have several hobbies, far too many to list now. My dreams for the future are to protect those closest to me to the best of my ability. Naruto-kun, you're next. Officially, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, but, given recent events, I much prefer my father's surname. I can't tell you what that is now, but I hope to be able to in the near future. I may have had likes when I was much younger, but being Konoha's favorite punching bag has dulled my enthusiasm for most. However, Ichiraku Ramen makes amazing food, and Sasuke isn't terrible company. My dislikes are every single soul in this village who hates me just for existing. My hobbies are more survival necessities than anything: training, researching, exercising, etc. My goal for the future is to resurrect my clan and destroy anything that gets in my way. Sasuke, your turn. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. There are lots of things I dislike and, aside from Naruto's preposterous fighting style, I don't really like anything. I have no hobbies, either. I can't really call it a dream, but I do have an ambition. To resurrect my clan, much like Naruto, and to kill a certain man. Hinataheim, it's your turn. My name is Hinata Hyuga. The thing, or rather the person, I like is. Hinata failed to finish her sentence, as Naruto's questioning stare made her nervous enough to nearly faint. Anyways, my hobbies are gardening and. Again Hinata had to suppress the urge to pass out. Steeling herself for the final category, she threw as much caution as she dared into the proverbial wind. My dream for the future is to marry the man I love. Hinata blurted before half fainting from mental fatigue. Naruto's face became an unreadable mask, and Sasuke exhaled a mixed sigh of relief and pity. Guess I'm not the only one with fangirl problems, the last Uchiha pondered, though Naruto only has one while I have too many to count. Thank the sage most of them weren't in my class. Ino and Sakura are headache-inducing enough. Very good, you three. Tomorrow we'll begin your true graduation exam. Kakashi's words brought Naruto and Sasuke out of their respective reveries and forced Hinata to come to her senses. What, you mean we're not actually genin yet? The Hyuga heiress asked. Correct, Hinata-chan. Kakashi leveled his good eye directly at Hinata. The purpose of the graduation exam you took within the academy is to filter out those who have absolutely no chance of becoming genin. The true test has a 67% failure rate. Those who fail are either sent back to the academy or drop from Konoha's shinobi program entirely, depending on how pitiful their performance is. Tomorrow morning, at 8 o'clock sharp, all of you will report to Training Field 7. You may bring as many ninja tools as you can comfortably carry, but do not eat breakfast, you'll be throwing it up. That is all for today, you three are dismissed. With that Kakashi shunshined, body flicker technique, away, leaving the three prospective genin alone on the academy roof. Well Dobi, I think I'll get in some jutsu practice for tomorrow. Sasuke said, already walking away. Naruto was about to do the same after saying a cordial farewell to Hinata but stopped dead in his tracks. The Hyuga-era's face was flooded with tears. Naruto-kun, please forgive me. I knew everything you were going through but was too afraid to do anything about it. I know nothing I do or say can ever make up for what's happened to you, but… Naruto closed the short distance between them and wrapped his arms around Hinata in a loving embrace. Hinata, you have nothing to apologize for. Even if you did, I was wrong to explode on everyone earlier. None of them directly harmed me, and some of them even tried to help at times. I'll need to apologize to all of them when I get the chance. Nothing wrong? Nothing wrong? I've stalked me for 7 years, ever since I beat the shit out of those 3 brats bullying you because of your beautiful eyes, yes I know. From that day, you've been following me everywhere, anytime you had the chance. At first, I thought it was because you wanted to beat me up like all my other stalkers, but it didn't take me long to realize your intentions were much purer than that, if a little perverted. Hinata's face was flushing pink. Beautiful eyes? No, not the point. Yes, I've followed you everywhere because I like you. I noticed all the horrible things being done to you, tried to help, begged my father to get adults involved, but nothing worked. I'm a terrible person. I should have fought harder for you. Hinata yelled. The journey is what matters, not the destination. Naruto quoted. More than almost anyone else, you, and your father, had ample reason not to get anyone else involved. With the Uchiha clan all but destroyed, the Hyuga are the most influential clan in Konoha. Only the Sarutobi clan can rival them politically, and that's solely due to Hiruzen being the Sandaime. If word ever got out that Hiyashi-sama's daughter was associating with me, the masses and most of the Hyuga elders would turn against you in a heartbeat, but you never cared about that and always kept helping me in the most subtle ways you could think of. After a couple years, I discovered the true source of the gifts I thought had come from Hiruzen. Tucci couldn't always afford to give me free meals, and the few store owners willing to sell to me at all always demanded payment up front. Money, snacks, non-perishable meals and clean water, new clothes as I got older, almost all of it came from you. You saved me, Hinata. Your support all these years prevented me from becoming my neighbors, stopped me from transforming into what I despise. Without you, I'd either be dead in a ditch somewhere or rotting in a prison cell by now. It is my greatest honor and pleasure to call you my friend, and it is my highest privilege to return your affections. Having said his piece, Naruto kissed Hinata lightly on the cheek then drew his head back slightly, awaiting Hinata's answer. The girl's face resembled a tomato. She'd dreamed of this moment for so long, but it was all too sudden. She'd thought she'd have to work at a relationship with Naruto, get to know him even more and share some of her own history before things got to this point. Damn, this is awkward. Such a romantic atmosphere makes it hard to interrupt. A woman's voice cut through the tense atmosphere. Hinata shrieked in surprise, not having realized Anko had joined them. Conversely, Naruto gave the torturer a knowing smile and received, in answer, a cheerful wink. Naruto-kun, Ibiki-san and I have concluded our investigation regarding your claims of neglect and abuse at the hands of your academy instructors. While no written records exist to corroborate your accusations, those named by yourself and your peers were all interrogated by Ibiki-san. None of the sacks of shit lasted more than 5 minutes with him before singing like canaries. They've all signed written statements swearing to the truth of their confessions, under pain of death. Given the severity of this case and the amount of people involved, Hokage-sama decided that a trial would take far too long and declared all the accused guilty, citing overwhelming circumstantial evidence obtained from numerous independent sources that corroborated each other with no conflicts of interest. Furthermore, your peers provided the names of several shopkeepers and restaurant owners throughout Konoha who have abused and, in some cases, attempted to murder you. These individuals have also been interrogated, with the same result as your teachers. Per your request to Hokage-sama, all guilty parties have been taken to a place he called Point X5. He said you knew this location, and requested that I accompany you to ensure the punishment you demanded is properly administered. Anko's eyes flashed with pleasure as she spoke the last sentence. Naruto felt lighter than he had in a long time, the pending retribution making him almost giddy. Hinata, I need to go and see justice served. I'd ask you to come along, but this is something that needs to be done with as few witnesses as possible. I trust you, and I want to trust your father, but there are too many unknowns regarding your clan if they somehow caught wind of what's about to happen. Understood, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Hinata walked slowly but confidently towards the stairs leading down into the academy, having had one of the best experiences of her young life. Naruto turned to Anko and pulled from his pocket a familiar disc. This is a key to where we'll be going, among other places. We had to go through my new home to get there. To that end, let's stick to the rooftops. My home is near the Hyuga compound, and I'd rather not run into Hinata on the way there. Naruto leapt towards the nearest building in the direction of his mansion. The Hyuga compound is near your new place? Anko mused as she followed Naruto. But almost all the buildings in that section of Konoha are claimed by the Hyuga and their allies. The only place currently vacant is, no way, you're his son? Anko nearly fell in shock. Indeed, my full name is Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki. Hiruzen, Kakashi-sensei, and I discussed that at length last night. Therefore, you don't need to contemplate murdering our Hokage in his sleep. Naruto assured the master torturer. Naruto quickened his pace to be slightly above the average Chunnin's level of speed, precluding further conversation as he and Anko raced to the Namikaze mansion. Once inside, Naruto went to the rear entrance, configured the seal array on the doorframe to point X5 and grabbed Anko's wrist. The transition is somewhat jarring. Naruto warned. What do you ahh? Naruto dragged Anko across the threshold, and they were warped to a clearing deep within one of Konoha's many forests. Sudden teleportation would unnerve almost anyone. If not for Naruto's precautionary grip, Anko would have fallen on her ass. She looked around and found Konoha's newest batch of prisoners chained to metal posts deeply embedded in the ground, arranged in a near-perfect circle. They were also gagged, and thus could only grunt and moan in protest to their current state. Clever, Hiruzen must have a different key linked to another warp seal that leads here. He certainly didn't give everyone responsible for rounding these fuckers up a key to my castle. Naruto praised his grandfather figure. But why here? Sure, cutting off everyone's right hand can't be done just anywhere, but why did it so far outside the village? Anko asked. To prevent prying eyes from learning about it until it's too late and ensure that "don't fuck with me anymore" point is driven home as deeply as possible. Naruto smirked as he walked towards the circle. As Anko followed, her eyes widened. The prisoners were staked around a pit in the ground, and the bottom of the pit held a body of water of indeterminable depth. The water's surface was swarming with hundreds of piranhas. This isn't a torture chamber, it's an execution ground. Anko realized with amazement. Fellow citizens of Konoha, thank you for accepting my invitation to one of my clan's private facilities. You all know why you're here, and if Hiruzen thought I wanted to hear your excuses, fruitless attempts to beg for your miserable lives, or scornful vitriol, then he wouldn't have had you all gagged. Naruto greeted the prisoners with a ringmaster's fanfare. As you may have noticed, this place is very far removed from Konoha proper. Anyone who's anyone that might have been able to demand your release won't even know where you are until well after we're done here. To the esteemed academy instructors gathered here who saw fit to raise their hands to me when I failed their rigged tests, you don't need to worry about the inhabitants of the pit. I told Hiruzen that all I wanted was your right hands, and I keep my word, unlike all of you. The prisoners, bound and gagged as they were, could do little more than glare at Naruto, but took some relief in knowing none of them would die tonight. However, I made no such promise regarding the shopkeepers, cooks, and restaurant owners here assembled. You've done much worse than beat the shit out of me over the years, and, for your transgressions, you've earned the honor of ensuring that the lovely fish in the pit will be alive for the next several years. Naruto jeered. Nearly half of the prisoners started squirming as much as their restraints would allow. Naruto ignored the group he'd just sentenced to death and moved towards the first instructor who would lose his hand tonight. Naruto, let me show you how to do this as quickly as possible while inflicting maximum pain. Anko's heart was in her eyes. Being a master torturer necessitated a sadistic personality, and Naruto's death sentence lit a fire in her like nothing she'd felt in years. With his death, Naruto was head of the Namikaze, and these were his lands. Per Konoha law, the only things that could supersede a clan head's authority in their own territory were a direct order from the Hokage or a council edict agreed upon by a 2/3 vote. Hiruzen-sama wasn't here, and no council vote could be held without his presence or prior consent. In other words, these prisoners were completely and utterly fucked. Under Anko's instruction, Naruto quickly went to work severing hands. There were abundant sets of bandages to ensure the prisoners didn't die of blood loss, but the anesthetics and disinfectants that would normally accompany such procedures were nowhere to be found. The prisoners vocalized their torment as much as their gags would permit. Once the last of the instructors had received Naruto's justice, the Namikaze Lord unceremoniously unlocked a shopkeeper's restraints with the master key and rapidly kicked him into the pit. Anko-san, please stand behind each prisoner as I release them. If they try to fight or run, cripple them as painfully as possible before handing them to me. Naruto requested. Keep making a girl this happy, and she might just take you home, Anko smirked. You have that backwards. Remember, we had to go back through my house to get to Konoha. Naruto countered. Wait, surely you're not. Of course, I'm just kidding. The Namikaze Lord clarified. The flush on Anko's cheeks was now derived as much from indignation as the pain and death before her, and nearly she forgot that she was meant to prevent the prisoner's escape attempts. Mastering herself, the torturer fulfilled her duty as Naruto sent prisoner after prisoner to their watery grave. Now then, all of my non-academy tormentors have received their just reward. The rest of you are currently experiencing varying degrees of infection and shock due to pain as a result of your punishments. I'm going to release all of you now. Konoha is several miles due east of here. Naruto pointed in the cardinal direction. Sadly, I don't know where the warp seal Hiruzen used to get you all here is located, and I'm sure as hell not dragging all of you human-shaped garbage sacks through my castle to get back home. Therefore, you'll have to walk back to the village. On the plus side, those fresh wounds are bound to attract all sorts of predators looking for an easy meal, so you're all much more likely to die from them than from infection or starvation. If any of you do manage to make it back, I'm sure Hiruzen has a fitting reception planned. Farewell, backstabbing motherfuckers. I hope none of you see the light of day ever again. Naruto created 100 cage bushin to free all the surviving prisoners. Most of them were in so much pain they could barely stand, let alone move. The few exceptions desperately began stumbling towards Konoha. Naruto paid them no mind as he grabbed Anko's hand again and channeled some chakra into the master key, causing it to immediately synchronize with the mansion's warp seal and teleport them there. As soon as they had fully materialized inside the mansion, Anko shoved Naruto against the nearest wall and placed a kunai to his throat. Naruto-kun, has anyone ever told you that it's not nice to toy with a lady's emotions? The purple-haired kunoichi asked in a sick sweet voice that, for most men, would simultaneously evoke arousal and terror. Naruto was not like most men. I'm afraid not. No parents in the shittiest teaching environment imaginable, remember? Anko was about to retort with one of the 36 comebacks she had thought of between Naruto's earlier remark and his most current response, but her words failed her as she looked into the young man's azure orbs. While not quite as well versed in the art of reading facial expressions as Ibiki, her expertise in torture had taught her one thing above all else. The eyes are windows to the soul. With enough training, one's emotional state could be read entirely by looking at their eyes, and, in Naruto's eyes, Anko saw only hope and eagerness. I'd like to think that we are kindred spirits. Naruto began. Like me, you're an orphan and the few times I've seen you around Konoha, I noticed how the civilians treat you. It's not as bad as what they've done to me, but a lot of them view you as something unclean that could taint them at any moment. Like a rabid dog or a venomous snake. I have no idea what happened to you earlier in your life that would provoke such a reaction, but I know Sasuke still has nightmares about what happened to his clan. I'm guessing you might have them, too. Before Iruka-sensei made life much easier for me, I had nightmares about villagers storming my apartment to kill me or dying at the hands of one of the shopkeepers or restaurant owners we just killed. It's not something you can talk about to just anyone, no matter how much you want to get it off your chest, is it? For a conversation like that to be worthwhile, you need to have it with someone who's gone through the same shit. You're a Tokubetsu Jonin, and I just became a genin, sort of. Whenever your duties permit, I'd like to have that kind of conversation with you. I think we both need a friend that gets it. A friend. Naruto had no idea just how close to home his request was. She did have nightmares, often, and none of her peers understood what she had gone through enough to offer more than a shoulder to cry on. Friends, huh? Anko mused. I like the sound of that. I've learned a lot about you during your investigation, but hearing it from your own mouth would likely be cathartic, both you and me. Well, I won't keep you from your beauty sleep any longer. You're taking the true graduation exam tomorrow morning, right? Be extremely careful. Kakashi-san has never passed a team of prospective genin. Maybe, but he's never tested a genin like me. Naruto boasted. Confident, aren't we? Well, best of luck tomorrow, my friend. Anko excused herself and left the mansion while Naruto created 50 Kage Bushin, gave them a series of instructions involving the Namikaze clan vault, and went to sleep. Good morning, everyone. I will now explain the rules of Konoha's True Academy graduation exam, Kakashi said in greeting to his charges. Naruto had a mixture of delight and concentration on his face, as if he were coming down from a high. Understandable, given the punishments he doled out last night. Hopefully he got enough sleep. The Jonin turned his gaze towards his other two charges. Sasuke's brooding was on full display, making it hard to tell what he was really thinking, while Hinata was trying not to stare at Naruto, getting increasingly flustered as she failed miserably. Young love, is it? A distraction at best, a major hindrance at worst, and, for this test, both are deadly. Kakashi coughed loudly, attracting the trio's full attention, and placed an alarm clock atop a tree stump, the center point of 3 such stumps, and pulled tiny bells out of his pocket. This alarm is set for noon. It is now 8:03 a.m. These bells are the goal of this exam. Your task is to take them from me within the time limit. Those who don't have a bell by noon will not be permitted to eat lunch. You'll be tied to those stumps and forced to watch as I eat lunch in front of you. The trio collectively gulped as they realized this was why Kakashi told them not to eat breakfast. As there are only 2 bells, one of you will definitely be tied to the stump, and any who don't get a bell fail the exam. Therefore, at least one of you will be going back to the academy for sure, if not dropped from the shinobi program outright. Kakashi said as he tied the bells to a loop on his pants. Hinata suppressed a gasp. A test that ensured only 2 of them, at best, could pass was being administered by a Jonin? There's no way I can let Naruto fail. He deserves this far more than I do. Sasuke cleared his mind, not letting the possibility of failure or the ramifications of success hinder his thoughts. Doubt and hesitation are poison, the enemies of ambition and progress. At times, discretion demands their consumption in small doses, but outwitting a Jonin in a battle of logic and mind games was a feat beyond his current abilities. He knew there was something else at play here beneath the rules Kakashi had described, but he left discerning the true nature of this exam to the teammate who had deceived nearly all of Konoha for years. Naruto placed a hand on Hinata's shoulder and gave her a carefree grin. Outwardly it seemed to have the desired effect of calming her down. It would have to be enough. Damn, I knew Hinata had confidence issues. Hell, it took her 7 years to admit that she loves me, and that only happened because I forced the issue, but to think it was this bad? Hopefully, knowing that I love her back will put some backbone into her, that and maybe some training. No, that won't be enough, not to completely shatter her doubts. Looks like I'll need to accelerate my plans. Naruto turned to Sasuke and received a blank look that spoke volumes to him. Leaving the lion's share of the job to me, are you Teme? Well, you did want to see more of my fighting style. You can use any and all jutsu, weapons, and other tools in your possession to pass this exam. You stand no chance of succeeding unless you come at me with the intent to kill. Kakashi stated. Naruto and Sasuke retained their earlier expressions while Hinata blanched in terror. But it's 3 against 1, you'll be in danger. She yelled. As I said already, Hinata-chan, the only way you might pass is by trying to kill me. Kakashi repeated. Hinata did her best to steel herself, her fear mostly disappearing from her face. Now, begin. Hinata and Sasuke fled into the forest, the former staying somewhat close to her original position while the latter ventured deeper in. Naruto remained in his original position. Not even trying to hide, Naruto-kun? Reckless, even in light of everything that's happened recently. You think just because you made a fool of Mizuki, a chunin, that you're a match for me, a jonin? Kakashi somehow managed to make his glare look intimidating while raising the eyebrow of his good eye. A shinobi must be able to see beneath the underneath. Naruto quoted, "The truth of this exam cannot be realized by hiding in the shadows." Taiju Kage Bushin no Jutsu. A thick blanket of smoke flooded the clearing, soon dispersing to reveal 400 cage bushin surrounding Kakashi in a massive circle. Attack! Naruto ordered as he leapt out of the arena. Using numbers to wear me down? Making himself a target to distract me from Sasuke and Hinata? If Naruto knows what this exam is really testing, then there must be more to his strategy than this. Kakashi mused as he started tearing Naruto's cage bushin apart, albeit with more effort than he originally thought he'd need. Hinata had activated her Byakugan immediately after the smoke from Naruto's jutsu manifested, not wanting to be caught off guard. She saw Sasuke racing back towards the clearing, but, before she could contemplate his motives, the realization of what Naruto had done nearly caused her to fall from the tree branch she was currently standing on. Cage bushin? Hundreds of them? That jutsu divides the user's chakra evenly between the original and all copies created. They all must have barely any chakra. Kakashi-sensei is swatting them around like bugs. Naruto, what are you doing? It's a stage, Sasuke said as he climbed up to Hinata's position. The Dobi has a script that includes both of us, and he's buying his time to figure out what the showstopper will be. But the bells, only 2 of us can pass. Bullshit, there's more to this test than Kakashi let on earlier. Sasuke refuted. I don't know what the real deal here is, but I'd bet any chance I have of awakening my Sharingan in the future that Naruto does. He's entrusting us with the endgame, and I trust him to get us there. Do you? Of course I trust Na. No. You love him, would do almost anything for his benefit, but I don't think you really trust him. Trust is different from love. Earlier, you were thinking of throwing this exam to allow him to pass, weren't you? Think, Hinata Heim. Naruto loves you, too. Do you really think he'd accept becoming a genin if it meant you were either kicked back to the academy or dropped from the program altogether? Love is at least partially derived from lust, and lust is ultimately selfish. Loving Naruto necessitates loving yourself enough to want this at least as much as he does, but, on the surface, that means you're working against him now. What do you say to that? Hinata was crying, not from sadness but rage. She'd always been like this, too meek to get what she really wanted. She always hesitated. If she trusted that Naruto would return her feelings, she would have asked to be his friend years ago. If she had the spine to confess her love to Naruto after a few years of being his friend, who knows where their relationship would be now? But it wasn't too late. She was here, on Naruto's team, and he said yesterday that he loved her. If he trusted her to determine the final steps of a winning strategy, then she had to do it. Not for Naruto, for herself. Good eyes, looks like you got some backbone in you after all. Sasuke gave a half smile in approval. We'd better hurry, half of Naruto's cage bushin are already gone. Yes. To begin with, Sasuke-kun. What jutsu do you know and how often do you think you can use them before running out of chakra? Roughly 30 minutes later, with a lazy poof, the last of Naruto's cage bushin vanished. Thanks for the light morning exercise, Naruto-kun. Kakashi's smile did not reach his eye. Would you like to try again, or is it my turn to make a move? Oh, there's more. Naruto smirked. Remember our race to the tower the other night? You won, beat me by about 20 seconds, but even for you, a former Anbu commander, it wasn't effortless, was it? Sure, if you used your full speed from the start, I'd never have stood a chance, but there was no reason to go all out then since there were no stakes. Now, you can't go all out because doing so would risk ending the exam before any of us could realize its true purpose, let alone attempt to achieve it. Those cage bushin didn't have that much chakra in them, but they were still copies of my body. With you being forced to hold back, killing 400 of them must have demanded considerable effort. You said it yourself. My team doesn't have to hold back at all, so why don't we see together what my inheritance can really do? Naruto reached deep within himself, past his chakra network and pulled. The dormant Yuki core flared to life, flooding Sesshomaru's descendant with 5 times the demonic power he had wielded during his encounter with Mizuki. The fledgling Daiyokai's azure eyes blazed gold. Purple stripes adorned his face, his short blonde hair transmuted to silver and reached halfway down his back, and his fingernails evolved into claws. Unlike before, however, the transformation induced hazy memories. Vague images and distant echoes of battles waged eons ago were seared into Naruto's mind, granting minimal, but very welcome, insight into the fighting style he'd subconsciously been cultivating for years. It took all of Hinata's willpower not to shriek in surprise or fall from her tree in shock. She looked to Sasuke, knowing the Uchiha to be Naruto's near-constant sparring partner and his only true friend, aside from her. "Don't ask me," Sasuke said softly. "Must be a Kekkei Genkei since he mentioned an inheritance, but I've never heard of one like this. Even from here I can feel the power rolling off of him. Can't imagine what Kakashi's going through being right next to him. This has to be Naruto's trump card. Unless you have any last-minute suggestions for our plan, we'd best get into our positions." "No, I think our plan is as good as it can be given how little time we had to work on it. It should work just fine," Hinata replied. "Well, now, there's the trust for Naruto I didn't see before this test started. Let's make our final preparations and enjoy the show until we're needed." Kakashi's good eye widened as he took in the sight before him. He can control the yokai transformations. Minato-sensei's message implied that they occurred randomly. And this pressure, I haven't felt anything like it since Kurama's attack 12 years ago. Even from a great distance, its killing intent was overwhelming. Just how powerful was Sesshomaru-sama, that a descendant barely scratching the surface of his essence could exert a pressure comparable to the Kyuubi no Kitsune? Curses. Naruto's earlier observations were right on the money. The use of any of Kakashi's most powerful jutsu would defeat the purpose of this exam and was, consequently, forbidden. That meant no Sharingan, no Reikiri, and no A-rank jutsu. Typically, using B-rank jutsu was forbidden as well, with C-rank jutsu only being permitted as a last resort. However, with a demonized Naruto as his opponent, Kakashi would have to break that last rule. He'd be using C and B-rank jutsu exclusively until Naruto was out of commission. Hopefully, he could get by with mostly C-rank. The last thing he needed was to be low on chakra with Sasuke and Hinata waiting in the wings. "Here I come, Kakashi-sensei." Naruto broke the sound barrier as he rushed towards his target. "So fast," Kakashi mentally hissed as he also accelerated to supersonic speeds. As Naruto's clawed fingers grasped only air where the bells had been just milliseconds before, Kakashi moved to gut punch him, only immediately reverse course as a roundhouse kick aimed to remove his head from his neck. His impromptu block of Naruto's counter met only air as Naruto retreated several yards away. "Cage Bushin are incredible, aren't they, Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto gloated. Not only do they flawlessly replicate the original's form and skills, but any knowledge or experience they gain during their existence is transferred to the original when they're dispelled or die. "I've reaped the benefit of 400 sparring sessions with you in the span of 1 hour instead of several months. I lack the arrogance to claim your counters won't work at all anymore, but I can confidently say you'll have a much harder time landing them now." So he knew about that aspect of the Cage Bushin no Jutsu before today, did he? Wonderful, today just keeps getting better and better. Kakashi was now mentally kicking himself for displaying such a substantial portion of his taijutsu arsenal during the bout with Naruto's Cage Bushin. He assumed that since Naruto had only learned the Cage Bushin no Jutsu 2 nights ago, had only used it for combat once since learning it, and was enraged in that moment that the most useful trait of the B-rank jutsu had gone unnoticed. It had not occurred to the copy ninja that Naruto just might have used his exclusive access to a clan jutsu archive to complete his knowledge of the jutsu that earned him his tentative graduation. Worse, Kakashi had no way of knowing how long Naruto could maintain his transformation, or what, if any, drawbacks he would experience once it expired. Therefore, the ex-Anbu commander was torn between trying to overpower Naruto with the limited arsenal permitted to him and attempting to outlast him. Deciding to favor the more conservative option for now, Kakashi adopted a stance that stressed defense and evasion. Naruto's jade-green Yuki flared around him like a wildfire before condensing into a cylindrical shape with one end exposed. Kakashi flashed beyond what he hoped was the effective range of whatever Naruto's technique was, moving several hundred feet to the right. As he began his evasive maneuver, Naruto broke the sound barrier again but did not try to follow Kakashi, deigning to move in a straight line instead. Naruto's Yuki cylinder prevented the sonic boom from expanding omnidirectionally, as nature intended, and was too dense to be dispersed by it. Left no other avenue of escape, the shockwave rebounded towards its point of origin, all its vectors focused in one direction. Naruto's body crackled with static electricity as the condensed shockwave exponentially increased his speed. By the sage, an artificial jet stream? Futon users fond of close combat would kill for something like that. Kakashi had precious little time to marvel at the boy's creativity, as Naruto made a palm strike against the air to his left, putting a great deal of his demonically enhanced strength behind the blow. The resulting distortion of linear momentum catapulted Naruto towards Kakashi's position, as the forces applied to his body and his surroundings obeyed the third law of motion. Kakashi leapt away. Naruto tracked his position but didn't bother trying to alter his trajectory again. Instead, he formed a Yuki barrier mere inches from his skin that was an order of magnitude thicker than his earlier cylinder. Milliseconds before he struck the ground, he punched the air in the direction of Kakashi's current position, about 500 feet above him and slightly to his right, with as much strength as he could muster in that instant. As before, the energy of his momentum was unnaturally channeled towards the singular hole in his technique and manifested as a hurricane-force blast of wind. Futon. Koka Kuki no Jutsu. Wind release. Hardened air technique. Kakashi weaved the hand seals for his defensive jutsu as soon as he saw Naruto's Yuki manifest again and stretched his hands out in front of him as if he were trying to stop a truck. Normally, this jutsu increased the density of the air in front of him for several seconds to slow the movement of incoming or outgoing objects, but, by drastically increasing the chakra used and shortening its duration to a mere instant, the effect elevated the affected airspace's density to the same potency as a diamond's hardness, providing near absolute protection for the briefest of moments. It was enough to save Kakashi from the initial blast, but several secondary gusts buffeted him as he fell. Only his lifetime of combat experience enabled him to reach the ground without breaking any bones or losing the bells. That's an ex-Anbu commander for you. You're amazing, Kakashi-sensei. I must have been going 15 to 20 times the speed of sound after being shot out of my Yuki cylinder, and the only thing I have to show for it is you being a little out of breath? Are you sure you should be chatting away like you have all the time in the world? From what I can see, you're just about at your limit. Kakashi's assessment was correct. Naruto's silver locks were receding, now barely shoulder length, and his right eye had faded from gold to aquamarine. His claws had also shortened, now barely half their original length. I'll have to make my remaining time count then. Naruto channeled some Yuki into his fists and started to rapidly punch the air in front of him, creating a barrage of wind blasts of similar strength to the secondary gusts that had nearly doomed Kakashi moments before. Kakashi leapt to the left, but Naruto anticipated the evasion and swept his left hand in a slashing motion, pouring substantially more Yuki into his latest attack. The subsequent blade of wind sought Kakashi's upper half like the Grim Reaper's scythe, and he quickly summoned a cage bushin to throw him upwards. Naruto grinned wildly and dispelled the paper-thin layer of Yuki he'd maintained millimeters above the skin of his right arm since he'd first shot himself through the air and thrust said arm, fully outstretched and fingers closed, fingers perpendicular to the ground, a few feet below Kakashi's position. Freed of its demonic restraint, the static charge clinging to the arm immediately exceeded its saturation limit and produced a bolt of natural lightning that streaked towards Kakashi like an arrow from Orion's bow. Raiden. Inazuma no Cabe. Lightning release. Lightning wall. Naruto's smirk half a second ago was Kakashi's only warning that he'd played into his adversary's hands. Knowing his earlier defense would not be enough, the Jonin's current jutsu conjured a mobile wall of lightning that fell towards Naruto. He suspected Naruto might try to weaponize the static electricity he observed earlier, but didn't think he'd be able to retain the necessary charge after being on the ground for this long. Yuki was clearly as versatile as chakra when it came to combat applications, perhaps even more so. Kakashi poured as much chakra as he dared into his electric barrier, and his extra effort paid dividends when it collided with Naruto's lightning strike, absorbing both the bolt and the accompanying thunderclap before dissipating. That was the best result Kakashi could hope for. Natural phenomena were substantially more powerful than their chakra-produced counterparts. This truth is why Sage Chakra and Senjutsu, which utilize the planet's natural energy, are vastly more potent than normal chakra and ninjutsu respectively. And that's it for the Demon Show today, folks. Feeling tired yet, sensei? Naruto's voice echoed through the shattered training ground, the boy himself nowhere to be seen as Kakashi landed. Perfect, now he starts hiding. Kakashi grumbled. The vision in his good eye was getting blurry. Since his Sharingan was off limits, he'd been forced to channel chakra into his other eye to ensure he didn't get tunnel vision while moving at supersonic speeds. As he had plenty of experience doing that with his Sharingan, he was able to avoid any permanent damage, but the eye was now severely strained. Worse still, secondary gusts from Naruto's impromptu hurricane had pulverized his muscles in several places. He'd applied some basic medical ninjutsu to stop the bleeding and reduce the pain but estimated that his current movement speed and range of motion were, at best, half their normal parameters. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. Fire release. Great fireball technique. Sasuke gave Kakashi no chance to recover as he invested nearly a third of his chakra into an enormous stream of fire. Futon. Daitopa. Wind release. Great breakthrough. Naruto exhaled a miniature tempest directly into his teammates' flames, fanning the already massive conflagration into an all-consuming inferno. Suijin. Suijin Heki. Water release. Water formation wall. A wall of water 100 feet high encircled Kakashi, shielding him from the blaze, but the heat in the air stung his already abused eye, forcing him to blink as his defense subsided. That singular instant of total blindness was all Hinata needed to strike. She emerged from the trees in a blur of motion, pouring as much chakra into her legs as she could without damaging them. In half a second, she closed the distance and tore the bells away from Kakashi. Mere milliseconds before the Jonin could grab them back, she hurled them toward Naruto and Sasuke. Sasuke caught the twin treasures and immediately handed one to Naruto while Hinata entered the stance of the Jukin. My apologies, Kakashi-sensei, but to retrieve the bells, you must first defeat me. Are you certain you've made the correct decision? Only 2 of you can pass this exam, after all. If I had kept one of the bells, it would currently be hanging from your belt loop again. Naruto's Kekkei Genkai is exhausted, and neither Sasuke-san nor I can best you, even if we fight as one. 2 genin against a jonin is a fool's bet. Far better that 2 of us pass than only one of us. And if any of your roles had been reversed, do you honestly believe your replacement would be as magnanimous as you just were? I believe that beyond all doubt, Naruto and Sasuke-san would never abandon me, nor they each other, nor I them. If that's your answer, then I have just one thing left to say. You all pass. Fuck, yeah, Naruto yelled. HMPH. Sasuke grunted. Thank goodness. Hinata sighed. As Naruto-kun correctly surmised from the start, the true graduation exam evaluates teamwork. Kakashi smiled brightly. Sometimes, you're lucky enough to get paired with exactly who you wanted, but other times, the opposite occurs. Sometimes your teammates are people you barely know and have little reason to trust. As shinobi, you must be able to set aside any grievances between you and your teammates and always work towards a common goal. Naruto knew he couldn't beat me alone, so he utilized his Kage Bushin and Kekkei Genkai to exhaust me and trusted his team to formulate a finishing act. Sasuke-kun hid rather far away initially, placing himself in an ideal position to monitor his teammates and provide assistance to whoever needed it. Hinata-chan observed from a closer position with her Byakugan activated, granting herself near 360-degree vision in a large radius and ensuring that I could not catch any of you off guard. As Naruto-kun and I clashed, Sasuke-kun and Hinata-chan devised what seemed a 2-pronged attack but was, in truth, a 3-pronged attack. The 2 of you trusted that Naruto would not devote so much effort as to render himself unable to contribute to your plan, and Naruto trusted that whatever plan you conceived would have room for him, despite his diminished capacity. Your complete trust in each other, playing to each other's strengths and planning around each other's weaknesses, allowed 3 students fresh from the academy to defeat an ex-Anbu commander. This belt test was first conceived by Lord Hokage while he was training the Sannin. Since then, very few teams have passed it on their first try. Most teams are either removed from the shinobi program completely or only pass it after being given a second chance. Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, and Hinata Hyuga. Your names will be added to the list of genin who have shown exemplary teamwork from the very start. I've nothing else for you today, and, given the extent of my injuries, I'll be out of commission for the next 3 days, at least. Until you receive a message indicating that I've fully recovered, you are excused from all shinobi duties save emergency missions. Think of it as my graduation present. I'll inform Lord Hokage personally before seeking medical attention. Dismissed. Hiruzen Dono, what is the meaning of this? Kaharu, one of the 3 most prominent civilians on Konoha's council, was shocked by what she had just learned. The report before you summarizes my investigation of our esteemed Academy instructor's conduct, including the results and conclusion of said investigation. The intent behind its contents should be self-evident. If any council member present wishes to view the full report, I will have copies made per individual request. Hiruzen replied curtly, "This is preposterous. You arrested nearly every teacher in our village's academy on rumors and hearsay." Homura, another of the top 3 civilians on the council, yelled. "The Kyuubi brats. His name is Naruto Uzumaki, and, from this moment forward, anyone who addresses him by less than his name shall be ejected from this council." Hiruzen spoke softly, but the steel in his voice was heard by all in the room. That those elevated to the highest position within Konoha a civilian can reach would disparage a child whose very existence spared our village from complete annihilation 12 years ago, speaks volumes as to the current state of our citizens. Naruto has always been only the prison, never the prisoner. Every soul here knows this, and every soul here, myself, most of all, has done Naruto a horrendous disservice by allowing those beneath us, or affiliated with us, to treat him in a manner even remotely similar to what is inscribed in the report. I, for one, have no intention of allowing such behavior to continue, and my council has no room for those who would, by action or inaction, perpetuate Naruto's misfortune. The civilians on the council glared at Hiruzen, while the shinobi faction either allowed half-smiles to appear on their faces or remained expressionless, depending on their opinions of Naruto. Regardless of their stance regarding the boy, none of the shinobi begrudged their Hokage for asserting his dominance over the civilian faction. On the contrary, many were reminded of Hiruzen's younger days, when he was feared as the god of shinobi, and welcomed what they viewed as a return to form for their aging master. To address your concern, Homura Dono, the accused have not been arrested, they have been sentenced. Hiruzen continued, their punishment has already been meted out, and they are free to resume their duties, assuming that they survived. Survived? Precisely what punishment did you deliver, Hiruzen? Danzo, the de facto leader of the council's civilian faction, asked the question on everyone's lips. To clarify, Danzo, the punishment administered to the guilty parties was requested by Naruto Uzumaki himself. I'll confess to a certain degree of shock when I heard his proposal for those who wronged him, though the poetic justice of it was, truly, inspired. The Sandaime allowed a peaceful smile to adorn his face. As Naruto was routinely beaten by his instructors, he believed it fitting that, if found guilty, their right hands should all be severed. The gruesome deed was done at a location of Naruto's choosing, by the victim himself. As the young man has no training in such procedures, Anko-san was dispatched to instruct Naruto and ensure matters proceeded as efficiently as possible. Regrettably, Naruto's preferred venue was far removed from any hospital or clinic. Between that and the swift nature of this investigation, only the most rudimentary of medical supplies could be arranged beforehand. The amputations were, regrettably, performed with no disinfectants or analgesics on site. Monstrous. Barbaric. How could you allow this? As the civilian faction voiced their outrage, the shinobi faction grew worrisome, both from the sadism exhibited by the abused Jinchuriki, and the ease with which he was able to conceal his loathing for those responsible for his plight. All present knew of Naruto's propensity for pranks but had believed it was merely his way of lashing out against his fate. Troublesome, to think Konoha's most infamous prankster has such a twisted mind. Shikaku said. Fine crops cannot grow in barren soil, Shikaku, Chozo responded. The village has abused Naruto for years, we've all seen it. If his academy years were as bad as the investigation summary suggests, then we can hardly blame him for seeking retribution. Hell, we should be grateful that he didn't demand their heads. Speaking of which, with Hokage-sama's permission, I believe I know where this brutal act occurred. The words of Inoichi, head of the Yamanaka clan and leader of Konoha's intelligence division, silenced the entire room as all eyes turned to Hiruzen. The Sandaime nodded in consent, a grave look on his face. Within the swaths of territory jointly owned by the Nara, Akamichi and Yamanaka clans, pockets of land claimed by the Uzumaki clan exist. One of these locations contains an execution ground meant specifically for traders of Konoha. My clan's territory encircles that area, and I received word last night of several one-handed men and women begging the Yamanaka they encountered for aid. Ah, then these most savagely treated instructors are now in your clan's care? Danzo asked. Indeed, Danzo Dono. However, the likelihood that any will survive, let alone be fit to resume their duties, is nearly non-existent. Inoichi answered. The execution ground lies deep within one of Konoha's many forests and has not been used since the Third Shinobi World War. As such, the surrounding woods are fraught with predators. Not even those of my clan assigned to guard our holdings in the region dare move far from their posts. By the time the instructors were rescued, they bore horrific injuries. Some died in the arms of their saviors, and those that remain among the living are in critical condition. Naturally, the outpost that rescued them is equipped to treat injuries typically received from animal attacks, but it is manned entirely by shinobi. As such, there is a presumption that the injured party will be able to flee their assailant without suffering tremendous harm. Are you saying that the near entirety of our academy's faculty is facing death with minimal medical resources? Kaharu shrieked. I am afraid so, Kaharu Dono. They cannot be moved without compromising their already precarious states. Before coming to this meeting, I dispatched an urgent request to the hospitals closest to the outpost, begging any medical ninja available to render aid at once. Unfortunately, said hospitals could not act upon my request due to many of their medical ninja being preoccupied with mandatory recertification exams and procedures. Once begun, these recertification processes cannot be interrupted without risking heavy censure and fines, or even imprisonment, for practicing medicine without an active license. Madness. The instructors are barred from aid because their saviors are busy taking glorified school tests? Homura yelled. Respectfully, Homura Dono, the policies concerning medical recertifications were recommended by, and approved by, the civilian members of this very council to ensure that Konoha's medical ninja would constantly be aware of technological and anatomical advances in their field. The strict consequences for failure to adhere to these policies were also approved by this council, again largely at your fellow civilians' behest. If you and your peers are dissatisfied by the current events, then you've only your past selves to blame. Inoichi allowed the slightest hint of delight to enter his voice. Kaharu and Homura could only glare at Inoichi as the cold truth sank in. Their silence spread to the other civilians on the council as they also realized the futility of protesting the matter further. The method invoked to punish these wayward instructors is irrelevant. Hiyashi, head of the Hyuga clan, stated. Far more pressing, at this juncture, is the fact that our academy is now woefully understaffed. To resolve this issue, I moved to pass an edict compelling any shinobi currently retired or unable to serve on the front lines to become academy instructors, until such a time that teachers with great compassion for all of their students can be cultivated and installed as replacements. Substantial compensation shall, of course, be provided for this inconvenience. Foolishness. Many of our retired shinobi are registered as reserve forces. I reject this, and any other proposal, that would compromise our military assets. Danzo swore. Have you bothered to read this investigation summary, Danzo Dono? The names of the guilty parties are listed on the last pages. The overwhelming majority of those sentenced were civilian instructors. I second Hiyashi-sama's motion, Shikaku countered. As do I. The relative lack of shinobi found guilty in this investigation clearly demonstrates that the shinobi of the village are far more capable of unbiased instruction than their civilian peers. Choza endorsed. Let us put the matter to a vote. Hiruzen declared. A soft rustling filled the council chamber as all present prepared the three small flags, colored green for affirmation, red for rejection, and blue for abstention, used for votes. Once all was in readiness, Hiruzen proceeded. Let the record state that Hiyashi Hyuga has proposed an emergency measure in response to an unavoidable, near instantaneous, and unprecedented loss of nearly 70% of the faculty in Konoha's academy. Many members of the civilian faction bristled at this statement but could do nothing. Hiruzen's official description of the current crisis was, technically, correct. Said emergency measure entails the enlistment of retired and/or disabled shinobi to teaching positions within the academy for an indefinite amount of time, with appropriate compensation. These shinobi may only be relieved of this duty if another, willing, denizen of Konoha applies, and is approved, to replace them. The approval process will be discussed at a later time. Furthermore, as the potential implementation of this emergency measure has dire ramifications for the future of Konoha, the voices of all council members present must be heard. There will be no abstentions. Upon hearing this, many shinobi in the room silently cheered their beloved Hokage, while several among the civilian faction suppressed the impulse to shriek in rage. A line in the sand had been drawn, and Hiruzen would soon know upon which side each councillor stood. Konoha, like any other shinobi nation, was a military state. No military could effectively function by committee. The Konoha Council was a mechanism meant to ensure peaceful relations between all of the village's citizens, but the democracy utilized within it was, at best, an illusion. One that Hiruzen clearly intended to shatter if this vote did not yield the desired result. All present who agreed to implement Hiyashi Hyuga's proposal, raise your flags. Hiruzen raised his own green flag, and a sea of green materialized to meet it. The shinobi faction had unanimously voted to approve the proposal, and many among the civilian faction also voted in affirmation. Whether they genuinely agreed with the logic and merits of the proposal, or were swayed by Hiruzen's unspoken threat, was known only to them. Once all flags were raised, they remained so for several minutes while their number was independently tallied by 3 randomly determined members of the council. Only once all 3 tallies were compared to each other, and confirmation that the results were perfect matches was obtained, did the flag bearers lower their arms. All who oppose Hiyashi Hyuga's proposal, raise your flags. Hiruzen continued. The number of red flags raised in response was only counted and verified for the sake of propriety. The outcome was already known. Let the record state that Konoha's ruling council has voted, by an overwhelming majority, to implement the emergency measures proposed by Hiyashi Hyuga. As the proposal was his, Hiyashi Dono bears all rights and responsibilities regarding the enactment of this edict. Should he require assistance in this matter, he is permitted to request the aid of any shinobi he deems suitable for the task. Hiruzen Dono, I move to create a subcommittee jointly staffed by civilians and shinobi. Its purpose will be to provide logistical support to Hiyashi Dono's efforts to re-establish the Academy's faculty. Kaharu demanded. Motion denied. Though the lax nature of all shinobi present in this room contributed to the crisis regarding the Academy's staffing issue, the root cause of the problem almost exclusively originated from Konoha's civilians. Their interference in this disaster's resolution shall not be tolerated. For nearly a minute, silence reigned supreme as everyone digested Hiruzen's words. Hiruzen, if there is nothing more of major note to discuss, I shall take my leave at this time. Danzo nearly spat as he began to rise from his seat, but before he could fully stand, 3 Anbu guards surrounded him and forced him to sit back down. What is the meaning of this? You overstep yourself, Danzo. This council meeting has not been adjourned, and I have not granted you permission to leave prematurely. If you will not remain seated of your own volition, then you will be chained to that chair until today's proceedings are concluded. Hiruzen did not bother to conceal his disgust for the man responsible for manipulating Itachi Uchiha into slaughtering his own clan. The War Hawk had been granted years to fly about as he wished, and he'd chosen to sink his talons in places that should have remained pristine. It was long past time to clip his wings. Danzo grunted as he relaxed in his seat. The Anbu that restrained him moments before retreated only 2 steps behind him, clearly prepared to deal with future escape attempts. The next order of business directly concerns you. Years ago, you created a subsidiary branch of our Anbu Corps, codenamed Root. I tolerated its existence at first, but eventually demanded its dissolution after the Uchiha massacre, correct? The current god of shinobi inquired. Indeed, Danzo answered, having a suspicion as to where Hiruzen was going with this and hoping he was wrong. Perhaps my memory is failing me, but I recall that my orders on the matter expressly stated that all equipment and memorabilia created specifically for Root operatives were to be completely destroyed. Is my recollection accurate? It is as you say. Then explain to this council why a Hyuga guard discovered this while patrolling the perimeter of Hiyashi Dono's manor. Hiruzen reached into his robe and produced a headband, throwing it into the center of the chamber for all to see. Instead of the leaf symbol typically seen adorning a Konoha headband, the kanji for Root was defiantly engraved instead. Inoichi-san, when Root was disbanded, you confiscated many headbands identical to this one, did you not? Hiruzen asked. I most certainly did, Hokage-sama, and my intelligence division was quite thorough in their search. It is most unlikely that any such headbands existing at the time of our purge escaped our notice. The Yamanaka clan had suppressed the urge to violate Danzo's mind then and there. In that case, Root must currently still exist in an unofficial capacity. Danzo, you'd best speak your defense now. I'm running out of reasons to resist strangling you with my shadows. Shikaku's shadow flexed towards Danzo, a wolf chomping at the bit. Very well, Danzo growled. Root was officially disbanded shortly after the Uchiha massacre per Hiruzen's instructions. However, a critical component of a Root operative's training was to condition them to serve me alone. This conditioning proved exceedingly difficult, if not impossible, to reverse, so I converted many of my former Root agents into private bodyguards. Some of them expressed a desire to wear their Root headbands again as a display of their respect towards me, so I discreetly manufactured a small number of them to be dispersed upon request. As Root is no longer recruiting new members, I saw no harm in appeasing the desires of my most loyal bodyguards. In other words, you created a private army, allegedly just for your protection, and this Root headband serves as a badge of honor for the greatest among them. Choza scoffed. I don't believe it. You're a warmonger masquerading as a helpless civilian, and I won't stand for your bullshit anymore. Choza invoked his clan's unique jutsu and swelled to nearly twice his normal height. Hiruzen Dono, we must have order in these proceedings. Homura pleaded. Agreed, both of you stand down. Shikaku and Choza both dispelled their jutsu, but their eyes remained fastened to Danzo like spiders imploring a fly to collide with their webs. Danzo, this headband was collected from the corpse of a man seen trespassing on a building very close to my estate. Hiyashi said. Specifically, the corpse was discovered on the roof of the Namikaze mansion. A puff of smoke emanated from the storage scroll Hiyashi threw to the ground. As it cleared, an emaciated corpse was made visible to all. The man's body was so thoroughly drained of nutrients that it had begun to decay minutes after his death. Only the near absolute time suspension of a storage seal could preserve the corpse for evidence in this impromptu trial. Fascinating. The Namikaze estate is among the most ancient buildings in Konoha. During construction, anti-intrusion seals must have been incorporated into its structure. Such seals typically incapacitate any not invited to enter. Naturally, fatal versions exist, but have only seen use in times of war to protect areas of strategic importance. I must confess I've never encountered one used for private security. Inoichi mentally applauded the fortifications protecting Naruto's new home. Danzo Dono, you have no business at the Namikaze estate, so your bodyguards have even less business there. Shikaku growled. Shikaku-san, if one of my off-duty guards happened to see something amiss upon the grounds of Yondaime Dono's estate, he would have investigated the matter. While the current iteration of my guards is, first and foremost, dedicated to protecting my person, they are, ultimately, still shinobi of Konoha. As such, they are obligated to enforce law and order within the village. That seems reasonable, Danzo, but your hypothesis presumes that there was something worth investigating. Inoichi countered. If such was not the case, then your Root operative had no legitimate reason to trespass on Minato-sama's mansion. Per your words, Root members are loyal to you first and the village second. Hiyashi-sama, did anyone of your clan detect something occurring within the Namikaze grounds that may corroborate Danzo's supposition? Perhaps, Inoichi Dono. 2 nights ago, a substantial quantity of chakra was observed emanating from the Namikaze mansion. If this Root member had chakra sensing abilities, he may have detected this chakra and investigated the matter, only to, regrettably, be ensnared by the estate's defenses. I'm afraid the chakra manifestation was my doing, Hiruzen offered. 2 nights ago, I and 2 of my maids were at the Namikaze estate to ensure that no rodents or insects had made homes in Minato-sama's mansion, per his last will and testament. The interior of the mansion is illuminated mostly by chakra lamps. Due to the building's size, a substantial quantity of chakra is required to activate them all. Indeed, such a visit is far from unprecedented. Hokage-sama's chakra signature is known to all of my guards, and they have noticed it several times throughout the years at the Namikaze estate as he performed his aforementioned duty there. Hiyashi clarified. Then this matter of my Root bodyguard is concluded. Danzo grunted. While I regret his loss, and his associates within Root will mourn him, He cannot be faulted for performing his duty and getting killed by an unknown trap. So it would seem, Danzo. However, if any of your off-duty, rude bodyguards detect something amiss in the future, they are not to intervene. They must report their suspicions directly to me. Hiruzen ordered. They are no longer active shinobi, nor are they members of the Konoha police force, and I shall not tolerate vigilantism in my village. As you command, Hiruzen. Danzo forced neutrality into his voice, but inwardly he was seething. The continued existence of his rude operatives had been discovered at the worst possible time. He had intended to use the current staffing crisis to plant several of his agents into the academy's new faculty. While they would not be able to openly preach Danzo's philosophies, their teaching positions would have been perfect for scouting new recruits. That was all but impossible now. The ex-shinobi selected for the task would be carefully screened to ensure that treatment of the Kyuubi brat would not be repeated, and the intensity of said screening would be, at the very least, redoubled now that Hiruzen was aware of Danzo's private army. Inoichi was extremely competent, and the small chance of any root agent evading his scrutiny was not worth the risk to Danzo's plans. I have no further orders of business to discuss. Does any other member of this council have issues that must be addressed at this time? Silence was Hiruzen's only answer. Then I declare this meeting of Konoha's council adjourned. You are all dismissed. The three leaders of the civilian faction left the council chamber immediately, followed soon by the rest of their faction. Most of the shinobi faction, including Hiruzen, left as well. Within 2 minutes, only 4 men remained in the room. We are alone. The only chakra presences detected by my Byakugan within several dozen yards are the other counselors, and they are all leaving the area. Hiashi stated. Excellent, then I'd love to ask, what the fuck just happened? Choza confessed. Shikaku and Hiashi informed Choza of Naruto and Kakashi's recent endeavors, with Inoichi providing context when needed. So, after the professor heard how Iruka-san was treated, he thought our hospitals all needed to be taught a lesson. Awesome, Choza exclaimed. Yes, but we have a much more troublesome issue now. Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune and son of our dear friend Minato-sama, has 12 years worth of ample reason to despise the village we all love. Additionally, he's wily enough to conceal the true extent of his rage for as long as anyone's thought to keep track of him, and he now has access to his family's greatest secrets. Shikaku grumbled. Hiashi-sama, you were Minato-sama's closest friend. Is there anything you can share with us regarding the legacy Naruto now stands to inherit? Inoichi asked. Regrettably not, Inoichi Dono. The Hyuga Lord responded. All here know of Minato-sama's many talents, but anything pertaining to his clan's history he either took with him on his journey to the afterlife or left to Naruto-kun. All clans have their secrets, and I had no desire to compromise my greatest friendship by asking Minato-sama to reveal anything he did not wish to. However, there is hope for us yet. My daughter has been placed on the same team as Naruto-kun. Despite her sincerest efforts to conceal it, her infatuation with our village's Jinchuriki is no great secret. I know not if Naruto-kun reciprocates Hinata's feelings, and I would never ask my daughter to choose between her heart and her sense of duty, so we can only pray that Hinata's relationship with Naruto-kun is positive enough to prevent him from turning against the entire village. That's not much to bet on, but we must play with the pieces we have on the board. Shikaku sighed. Speaking of which, I'd like to deprive Danzo of his pieces as soon as possible. Inoichi Dono, can you dig up the old list of known root operatives from when Hokage-sama first ordered them disbanded? It's been years, and there's no way Danzo hasn't been recruiting since then, but those agents can provide invaluable insight into Root's current structure and combat capability. Even if they've been brainwashed, or have a jutsu cast on them that prevents them from betraying Danzo, killing them will still reduce the threat posed by Root substantially. This is why I love working for you, old friend. You're one of the few who can read my mind. I'll have that list for you within the half hour, and we can begin arresting the Root agents known to us later today. I will lend you several Jonin-ranked members of my clan. Their Byakugan will be invaluable to your search. Hiashi stated. I'll send a bunch of my clan's Jonin as well. You never know when you'll need some heavy hitters. Choza added. We have our objectives, and we know the consequences of failure. Nothing more needs to be said. Mission start. Hiashi declared. 10:15 a.m., Ichiraku Ramen. Here's your orders, Naruto, Hinata Haim, and Sasuke-kun. Enjoy. Tucci, proprietor and head chef of Ichiraku Ramen, placed an extra-large miso ramen bowl in front of Naruto and two medium-sized bowls of the same in front of Hinata and Sasuke, before walking back to the kitchen to start making the second of the 5 bowls Naruto had requested. "Naruto, I'll pay for this meal," Hinata offered after a few minutes. "What? Hinata, no. This was my idea, so it's my treat." "Quiet, both of you," Tucci yelled as he returned from the kitchen with Naruto's second bowl. "This one's on the house. You can't be serious." Sasuke gawked at the ramen stand owner. "Never been more serious in my life, kiddo. Naruto brought you all here to celebrate becoming proper genin, and this is hardly the first time I've treated Naruto to a free meal. The stand's been doing quite well recently, due in no small part to Naruto's continued business. It's only natural to reward my best customer. Actually, Sasuke-kun, Naruto's holding back this time. He normally orders at least 10 bowls of ramen." Ayame, Tucci's daughter and primary waitress, chimed in. 10 bowls? Naruto, I know this food is delicious, but you must see better to your nutritional needs." Hinata decreed. "Have no fear for your boyfriend's diet, Hinata-heim. I'm letting him off easy today since it's a special occasion, but for years now, I've been slipping vegetables into every bowl Naruto orders." As a young kid, he loathed all food colored green, but telling him I'd never give him a discount again if he kept turning his nose up at vegetables shut that down real quick. Tucci bragged. "He's right, getting me over my hatred of vegetables is the crowning achievement of this stubborn chef's career." Naruto confirmed. The meal proceeded to its conclusion in near silence, the only sounds being the clattering of chopsticks and the slurping of ramen noodles. "Hinata, are your feet okay? You ran out to grab the bells right after our inferno cleared. The ground must have been insanely hot." Naruto glanced at Hinata's damaged sandals. "I'm fine. Sasuke-san gave me several ceiling tags that absorb fire. I wrapped them around my limbs to avoid exposure to the heat." Hinata answered. "Guess when your whole clan specializes in breathing fire, it makes sense to have fire ceiling tags on hand." Naruto realized. Damn right, plus, it wouldn't do for your girlfriend to have roasted feet. Sasuke grunted. Hinata flushed with pride. Naruto was hers, and she was his. Soon, the whole village would know. "Any plans on what to do now, Dobi? We've got at least 3 days to ourselves." The last Uchiha figured some training was in order, but Naruto had proven himself to be the most capable genin on their team. If the Dobi had a better way to spend their unexpected vacation, Sasuke was willing to hear him out. "About that, I'd like you and Hinata to come over to my house." The Jinchuriki answered. "No way, you don't have questions about all the crazy shit I pulled during the bell test. Can't talk about it here, way too risky, but since you're my teammates now, you deserve to know." Kakashi-sensei already does. "I'm sorry, Naruto, but my father requested that I report to him immediately after our exam was finished. I've delayed long enough already by eating that meal." Hinata apologized. "Your father will have to wait a bit longer. There's never going to be a better time to tell you about this than right now, and it's something you really need to know, especially since you intend to become my wife." Naruto insisted. Wife? Please don't tease me, Naruto. It's at least 6 years too soon for that kind of talk." Hinata's face turned crimson. "Normally, you'd be right. Most Konoha citizens can't get married until they're legally considered an adult at age 18. But the reason that won't apply to us is one of the things we need to talk about. Besides, I moved to a new place a couple of days ago. My new home is almost right next to the Hyuga compound. If Hiyashi-sama sends out a search party for you, it won't take them long to see where you are." Naruto explained. "All right, let's get going then." Hinata's voice gained some steel as she resolved to place her heart above any of her father's demands. 10:30 a.m., Hokage Tower. Kakashi had just finished giving his report to Hiruzen and was descending the tower steps to go to the very hospital where he'd first met Naruto when he encountered none other than Shikaku Nara, Jonin commander of Konoha. "Kakashi Dono, what happened? You look like shit." "Naruto-kun happened. Turns out he's got one hell of a Kekkei Genkei." The copy ninja didn't bother keeping the exhaustion out of his voice. "Kekkei Genkei?" Shikaku's eyes widened. "You mean?" "No, not that. As far as I can tell, it's still completely locked up," Kakashi clarified. "Naruto's lineage has another secret. Sorry, but I can't tell anyone without his permission, not even you." All I can say on the subject is Minato-sama left a second last will and testament, one only accessible by Naruto, and both Lord Hokage and I were present when he discovered it. Troublesome, there's an emergency mission concerning the well-being of Konoha that I really could have used you for, but there's no way I'm putting you in the field in your current state. Shikaku sighed. You sure I can't contribute at all? I'm currently capable of fighting at about half strength, and that's not counting my Sharingan. Kakashi knew he needed to recover, but he didn't want to appear unwilling to aid a superior officer. Not good enough. If this was an official mission, it would be at least A rank, most likely S rank. Shikaku called Kakashi's bluff. It'll last several days, so we'll likely need your help very soon. Get fully healed ASAP, Kakashi-san, that's an order. Yes, sir. 1:30 p.m., Namikaze Estate. Mother of all horseshit, Sasuke swore. I thought I had it bad, but at least I got to know my clan and parents before Itachi ruined everything. You never even had that, and everyone who knew you were the Yondaime's son kept it from you because he had a ton of enemies? Fuck that. They should have treated you like a warrior king. Made you train your ass off until you were so strong no one could touch you. Good thing you damn near did that yourself while no one was watching, and having Kurama sealed inside you was enough to turn everyone against you. Unbelievable. To think that everyone in the village hates you for something completely outside of your control, it's pathetic. Hinata added. Minato-sama must have believed that if people found out then they would praise you as a hero for keeping Kurama at bay. He must be weeping in his grave since the village's reaction ran so contrary to what it should have been. Naruto had held nothing back while discussing his past and what he had learned of the origins of the Namikaze, and of the demonic power that had awakened within him. Now, there were but two things he wished to discuss. Hinata, you now know that I'm rightfully the clan head of both the Uzumaki and the Namikaze. A clan head can marry as young as 15, and I intend to claim what is rightfully mine as soon as Hiruzen and Hiashi-sama think I have enough support to do it. As I said when we were introducing ourselves to Kakashi-sensei, my goal is to resurrect my clan. However, I have two clans to resurrect. You know what that means, right? Hinata didn't want to answer, especially after learning yesterday that Naruto loved her back, but Sasuke's lecture about trust came to the forefront of her mind and erased her doubts. With two clans to revive, you will need, at the very least, 2 wives. Part of me wants to refuse, to keep you all to myself. If I say no, you would either have to choose which clan to resurrect, or our children would all have to be raised differently depending on which clan you intend them to be part of. I don't want that, not for our children, and, especially, not for you. However, for me to allow this, I must insist on being the primary wife. That goes without saying, you'll always be my number one. Naruto reassured her. Good, no, perfect. Regarding the other members of your harem, how many members did you have in mind? Also, is there anyone you have your eye on right now? I was thinking of at least 2 for each clan. As for who they'll be, I don't have anyone in mind at the moment. A small, very hopeful part of Naruto wanted Anko to be in his harem, but such a thing, if it was even possible, was nowhere near plausible enough to bring it up to Hinata right now. 2 per clan won't be enough, but at the same time, we don't want your harem to be too large. Otherwise, all your wives will feel neglected. For now, I think a maximum of 3 wives per clan is best. We can consider changing that number eventually, but I really don't like the idea of adding more women than that. Translation. If you try to force the issue, Dobi, there will be hell to pay. Too bad, looks like 6 is your limit. Sasuke chuckled. Thank you for your insight, Sasuke-san. Hinata's lavender eyes glared frigid daggers at the last Uchiha. I hope you also realize that, if not for Hokage-sama's benevolence, you would have already been politely asked to mate with any number of your fangirls. You are more than old enough to produce semen and, from a military perspective, you are far more valuable as breeding stock than as an active shinobi. Sasuke flinched in terror. He had not considered that possibility. Thank you so much for being willing to do this, Hinata. Naruto's overwhelming sincerity was evident in his voice. Being able to restore my clans is the most fulfilling thing I can think to do in my life. If I gain the respect of Konoha along the way and end up being Hokage, that would be great, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Now, before we decide how we'll be spending the rest of our unexpected time off, there's something I want to show you all. I'll be right back, don't try to follow me. Right now, I have no idea how to deactivate the seals and barriers protecting my clan vault. Your keys won't protect you. Naruto stood up and left the dining room sofa they'd been sitting on for the past few hours. Upon entering his clan vault, he needed only moments to find his prize. It was located near the vault's entrance on a bookshelf dedicated to Fuinjutsu. Grabbing it gently, he returned to the dining room. This is the chakra message box left by my mother, Kushina Uzumaki. I've told you both everything else I've learned recently, it's only right that you get to listen to this with me. Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, as the last Uchiha, I am deeply honored by the trust you have placed in me this day. Should you need anything of me, or my clan, in the future, you need only ask. Sasuke bowed deeply, not to his teammate, but as one future clan head to another. I, Hinata Hyuga, am also greatly honored by this act of trust. Though I am not authorized to speak for my clan's head, Hiyashi Hyuga, it is well known that he and Minato-sama were the closest of friends. I firmly believe that if he were here in my place, he would swear the same vow of allegiance that Sasuke Uchiha just swore. Therefore, as the first daughter of the Hyuga clan head and by the powers vested in me by the laws of Konoha, I swear to aid you with all the strength I can muster within Hyuga on my father's behalf. Hinata also bowed to Naruto. As clan head of both the Namikaze and the Uzumaki, I accept your offers of unconditional allegiance. Should the Uchiha or Hyuga ever require my assistance, ask and I shall gladly provide. Naruto bowed to each of his teammates in turn. Now, let's see what my mother had to say about all this. Naruto channeled chakra into the message box, and a projection of a beautiful woman with long, red hair and violet eyes emerged. Good morning, evening, or afternoon, my beautiful boy. The recording began. As your mother, there's so much I want to say, but I don't know where to start since I have no idea how old you'll be when you see this. You could be as old as 18 since that's the maximum age we set for you before you could be told about the family mansion, but if you turned out to be a prodigy like your father or awakened to the Namikaze legacy in your youth, then there's no telling how old you are right now. Have you managed to make good friends? Do you have a girlfriend or even a wife? Have you been eating your vegetables and brushing your teeth every day? I'll never know, but you need to know about Kurama. Depending on how old you are and what's gone on in your life, she may have awakened within you already. If so, then she's also listening to this, and I just have one thing to say to her. Thank you for everything you've done for my clan. At this, the three young shinobi were shocked. They knew from Minato's message that Kurama wasn't entirely evil, but that she was benevolent enough to warrant thanks from Kushina was incredible. I'm getting ahead of myself, let me start over from the beginning. Kurama, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, and her 8 siblings have existed since long before the time of Hagoromo Otsutsuki. For nearly their entire existence, they have sought nothing from humans, choosing to isolate themselves to avoid conflict. Unfortunately, humans constantly seek power, and the tailed beasts are power incarnate. For ages, they have been hunted, sealed within humans so that their power could be weaponized. Thank the sage that the mightiest among them never desired to destroy humanity for its greed and hubris. Eventually, Kurama approached the Senju and Uzumaki clans with a proposition. She would allow herself to be sealed within a newborn of the Uzumaki clan and instruct us on various chakra techniques she believed were too useful to be lost to time. In exchange, Kurama demanded only 2 things. First, that her Jinchuriki would only use her power in defense of either themselves or those they deeply cared about. Second, that whenever the next child determined to be her Jinchuriki was conceived, she would be freed from her current Jinchuriki to travel the world and return to be sealed again once her next Jinchuriki was born. The trio once again had to suppress their surprise. Kurama's near-selfless offer spoke volumes to her commitment to not harm humans. Right now, you're likely asking yourself why Kurama attacked Konoha if she was willing to be sealed almost all the time. Well, here's where things go to shit. I was Kurama's Jinchuriki before you. As such, when you were conceived, I dispelled the seal keeping Kurama trapped within me. Per our agreement, she spent the next 9 months traveling the world, visiting the other tailed beasts and conversing with any number of gods, demons, or other spirits she considered friends. As promised, she returned to Konoha on the day you were born to be sealed within you. Unbeknownst to all of us, however, he was waiting. I never got a good look at him, but Minato said he was an Uchiha wearing a yellow mask and suspected that he was Madara Uchiha. All three gasped. Madara Uchiha, the greatest shinobi to ever descend from the mighty clan. At different times in his life, he was either Hashirama Senju's greatest ally or his most formidable enemy. The history books all say that he was killed by Hashirama at the end of the Warring States era, but winners write their own histories, and if anyone could survive an all-out duel with the first man to be known as the god of shinobi and still be alive, generations later, it would be Madara Uchiha. Immediately after you were born, he fatally wounded me and used the Sharingan's unique genjutsu to enslave Kurama, ordering her to destroy Konoha. He would have killed you, too, but Minato teleported him far away from our home. Minato was eventually able to defeat his opponent, forcing him to retreat and even breaking his control over Kurama, but was critically injured in the process. Minato returned to my side, to your side, as did Kurama once her mind was her own again. Before I died, Kurama helped me transfer my most recent memories and will to the chakra box you're listening to now, overriding my original message so I could warn you of Madara's existence. Minato, likewise at death's door, used the last of his chakra to seal Kurama within you. If Hiruzen was not killed during Kurama's attack, we had advised him to erect a secondary seal to suppress Kurama's consciousness if anything went wrong during her transition from one Jinchuriki to the next. Our hope was that whoever sought Kurama's power would have great difficulty detecting her presence within you if she was forced into a dormant state. However, the seal suppressing her consciousness could not be applied at its full power without compromising her imprisonment seal. Furthermore, once it is broken, any attempt to reapply it carries an exponential risk of destabilizing the imprisonment seal. When Kurama awakens within you, she will have access to all of your memories, and anything you experience will be instantly known to her. Her power will be yours to command, though it may prove difficult to use efficiently at first. Kurama's chakra is orders of magnitude more potent than that of any human. What she has taught the Uzumaki is contained within the books in the family vault. As the last Uzumaki, it falls to you to honor our agreement with Kurama. Please, protect her from those who would abuse her power. With that final plea, Kushina's recording ended and her message box burst into flames. The fire lasted only moments but was so intense that not even ashes remained of Kushina's last will and testament. Fortunately for the table the box laid upon, the blaze was self-contained, consuming only its intended target. Hinata moved to comfort her fiancé, but Sasuke stopped her with a soft grip on her hand and a firm look. Mom, I'm 12 years old right now. In fact, I just officially became a genin earlier today. Naruto spoke in a tightly controlled voice as a single tear fell from his face. There's not many of them, but I've made some good friends. Another tear fell, this time from the opposite side of Naruto's face. I have a girlfriend, and she just agreed to become my wife. She's also allowing me to have a harem, so I can re-establish both your clan and my dad's clan. More tears fell, from both sides of Naruto's face, creating a small puddle on the floor. I don't like doing it, but I eat my vegetables as often as I can. Most of Konoha hates me right now, so I can't always get a good meal. Likewise, I brush my teeth every day. The tears fell faster, the puddle grew immensely. Kurama hasn't woken up yet. Even though you said she'd learn everything I know right away, I'll still tell her what you said about helping our clan. She should hear someone say it instead of just learning about it from my memories. She deserves that and much more, right? Naruto's control over his voice began to break as his tears formed miniature waterfalls. The puddle expanded exponentially. I swear on all my ancestors, both Uzumaki and Namikaze, to uphold the agreement with Kurama and protect her from anyone that wants her power. So please, mother, rest easy knowing your son's got things under Kokan control. His eulogy complete, Naruto surrendered to his grief and began sobbing uncontrollably. Sasuke and Hinata cried with him, sharing his pain the only way they knew how. THSTA all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.